Good evening, and welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting for December 2nd, 2013. Let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, and just sound check. Dave, do we have you on the phone?
Yep, I can hear you.
Great. So Dave Surf is obviously attending via phone tonight. So let's begin. I'll begin by opening the public hearing for the Keon's transfer of liquor license, transfer of stock, change of manager, and new officer director. Do we want to bring them up at this point, Mike? Is that?
Yes.
Okay. Please come up. If you could just state your name and address, please.
Wayne Kingston. I live at 4805 Heatherwood Lane in Peabody.
Have a seat, gentlemen.
Yeah, have a seat.
I'm George Suslak, attorney from Danvers, Massachusetts, 5 Hidden Place in Danvers.
Great.
James Holloway, 41 Curly Road, North Andover.
Thank you. Okay. Maybe we can just start with what you're looking to accomplish.
Well, we're just looking, Mr. Swansburg has now bought the stock from Keon's. It's called Rivals Bistro 2.
Mm-hmm.
He now owns all the stock in that. He's going to continue to operate the restaurant, the function hall, and we're trying to change the name of the manager from Alan Boisvert to James Holloway.
Okay.
Essentially what we want to do right here tonight.
Excellent. I'll open up for any questions. Actually, I guess I'll say Mike and Janet are sending Morse code to Dave.
Dave, can you hear?
I can hear you, but you're fading in and out really bad.
Put the TV on.
Watching delay.
Yeah, you can watch
You
it
can
on
watch
television.
30-second delay, my friend.
Okay.
I've got it turned up as loud as it'll go.
You want to put it over here?
Well, it's all going to depend who's talking anyway, so.
Well, back up again. Mike?
Yeah.
All right.
Why don't you put it in front of you so that you can at least
I
hear
still
the
can't hear
questions?
anything.
No one's talking.
We need to speak louder.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you, sir.
Okay. So I guess first question is, Mike and Janet, everything in good standing in terms of any requirements or any other things for doing this transaction?
Yes,
No issues?
no issues.
Great. And to the board, questions?
Yeah, I'll just open this up and just try to get a sense of some of the experience that you have in running restaurants and having liquor licenses, serving liquor and stuff. Just to give your background, that'd be great.
Well, Mr. Swansburg, who owns the golf course and hopefully the restaurant, I mean, he has some industry background. He was the owner of the Hilltop Steakhouse from the late 80s till the mid 90s. So there were multiple liquor licenses for the facilities. He's not a day-to-day guy. He's brought in James to handle the restaurant operations, and he has background in the restaurant industry. I'll let him explain.
Yeah, James, that'd be great. Just give us some background.
I
So
work
if
for
I'm
the-
going to go eat down
Yeah.
there, I'll know I'm in good hands. How's that?
All right. I worked for the former Georgetown Club
Mhm.
from 1999 to 2006. I then went to Legal Seafoods, and then most recently I was at Bear Hill Golf Club in Stoneham for 6 years.
Excellent.
All right. So, gentlemen, I know there's a lot of work going down there. I was just down there with Bill, I think the manager at the bar at the time. I don't know if he's,
Okay,
what
he
the
is.
plans are going forward. I understand you guys, Mr. Swansburg is going to make quite an investment down there and change to the restaurant and stuff like that. Is anything significant that we should know regarding the liquor license in terms of any changes to the operation down there, or is it mostly just cosmetic, functional stuff like
Cosmetic.
that?
Yeah, mostly cosmetics at this point. I think there'll be some substantial renovations to the
Yeah.
restaurant and bar areas,
Sure.
but that's sometime in the near future.
Okay. Great. That's all I have for questions.
Great, thank you. Any other questions?
What's the format gonna be for the restaurant? Be family style? Is it
Family
changing?
style,
Just-
yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So more of a broader selection.
Yes.
Okay. That's all I got. Okay.
I've never been supportive of the license because of the cots. At one point, I believe this town was gonna go to court against the ABC because we didn't feel it was right that one license covers everything, but I guess we have since dropped that. Well, that's basically why I've not been supportive of your license. I see in your lease, though, that you have something in the lease that the cots need to stop business at 5 PM on any day. I just didn't know if perhaps later you could do something, because I understand from your own rules that you don't send them out there that early, but I believe the license does start on weekdays at 8 in the morning,
The first tea time is probably around 8 o'clock in the
Cannot be
morning.
completed at 5.
and is the cot going out at that time of day?
Oh, the beverage
A
cart.
hospitality cot?
No, no. I mean,
What time do they start?
It only goes out a couple days a week. Friday and Saturday, they can, it probably starts around noon, 11 o'clock, thereabouts.
Dave, is
It doesn't go out in the mornings at all, ever.
Well, and I understand that that was the way it was to be, but I mean, it is on the license that it can start at any time. And I find that troublesome.
Never used that way. I've
So
been a member there for-
I'm just telling you why I've not been
understand.
supportive in the past. I don't think I've been voting for this license because of the hospitality cots being able to be licensed at the same time. And I'm just saying that I see it's in your lease that you could stop them at 5, so perhaps if somewhere you could put something in the lease or something later that they wouldn't start until a certain time, I could be more supportive in the future. I mean, that's totally up to you.
Well, at the current time, Mr. Swansburg is both
Right,
the
there's
landlord
always-
and the
Yeah.
tenant, so
Mm-hmm.
he can make those kinds of changes if necessary.
And I've been a member there for 10 years. It's never been out there 8, 9, 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. Just doesn't happen.
The other thing I had was on the license somewhere, you've got it listed as, entrances and exits as 1, and it looks like another 1, unless that's a 7. Can you clear that up for me?
Might have been a smudge. I believe that says, I think it says 7. I think they're both supposed to be 7s.
They're both supposed to be 7s. Okay. Because that clears it up there when I was looking at I mean, you've got a lot down as exits, and obviously you've got to have fire exits. But,
Yeah, it's 7 on the plan.
but then, is every one of these exits an entrance, or do you actually have, like, basically just one way to get in? That's because, I mean, that doesn't look like a smudge, that looks like a 1, but maybe it's supposed to be a 7.
I'll say, I think it was supposed to be a 7, yes. Now, there are multiple entrances and
And they're used daily. They're all open
Okay,
all the time.
so that should be 7 and 7.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the document. I didn't draft the
Yeah.
document. I'm not sure what you're looking at, but
Well, the building inspector will, because you are doing renovations, and the building inspector will be, you'll be pulling permits and that, I take it. So those were the 2 things, thank you.
Okay, so I guess, are you just stating your thoughts on the liquor license at this point, or are you looking to, I mean, I'm not sure we're in a position to take action tonight, so I don't wanna just blow over it. You brought it up as an issue, I just wanna,
Yeah, no, I would not be, again, supportive of this license because of that. I don't believe I've been supportive of it in the past, and I just don't think I know the ABC says that if the license starts at 8 and it goes till 1, that basically they can be out there with their hospitality cots during those hours also. And I don't think that should be that way.
okay? Have we had, I'm not aware of any significant issues from the police perspective in terms of enforcement or problems?
Not that I'm aware of.
So,
If I may, so I was a proponent of the liquor license that you had, or the owner and the manager of the liquor license had asked for previously. And I don't think our board should be necessarily legislating morality of serving alcohol or not, and what hours. But I will say that since we have the right to review the liquor license if there's any issues at any time, and we have the authority to penalize you if there are any infractions on that, we still have that. So I believe that Mr. Swansburg wants to run a solid operation, wants to continue in, and is investing a lot of money into the restaurant. I've had some conversations up there. And I will tell you, I think you guys, the restaurant and the golf course has done a fabulous job since we provided your license the first time.
Thank you.
And I'll just second that. The business, the integration in the community has been fantastic in the viable business there, and definitely appreciated in terms of the effort that's gone in there and the bit of transformation that's gone on, and looking forward to future success for you as well.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, David, go ahead.
I'll echo those sentiments also, but I was one of the opponents of the liquor license way back when Keon's first started. I had my concerns about Sunday mornings and the ability to serve alcohol. You know, there hasn't been an issue. I'm glad to see that it hasn't been an issue. So, you know, I'll echo the sentiments of you and Phil that you know, we're really happy about what's going on down there in terms of the restaurant, the golf course, and everything else. And I would be fully in support of the stock transfer and the license transfer.
Okay, so can I entertain a motion at this point?
Just so I'm clear on the transfer, the stock, the change of manager, and the officer and director, is this all to James Halloway?
Well, James is the manager of record, the new manager of record for the license.
Okay.
The transfer of the stock is to Mr. Swansburg from Alan Boisvert, and Mr. Swansburg will be the president and directors, and
Okay.
I'm on as treasurer.
Mr. Chairman, before we entertain a motion, I think point of order is we need to close the public hearing.
Thank you, David. Even from far away, you got my back. And Mike, is that a motion, or is that just, I just close it?
Just announce that it's closed.
Okay. I actually,
Well, you can
I do want to ask the audience, is there anyone
ask
who
for
would like
public
to
input.
offer any public input or comment? Okay, so we will close the hearing. And now I'll entertain any motions.
So Mike, I'm clear on this, right? We've got a liquor license transfer, we've got a transfer of stock, we've got a change of manager and a new officer, so there's gonna be 4 different motions for this, right?
I think you just have to approve the transfer of the liquor license and all those things
We'll fall through it.
follow it.
All right, Mr. Chair, I move that the Ribos Bistro 2, Inc., doing business at Keon's at the Black Swan liquor license, be transferred from Alan, how do you pronounce Alan's last name?
Boisvert?
Boisvert. To James Holloway, as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Just, when is this, this is effective on the, immediately? And the only reason I'm asking is it's
ABCC.
December, so we'll have to go through this again. Is this an expiration date on this, right?
Well, this is just for the transfer. They actually we have later in the meeting,
A
the
renewal.
renewal of the actual license. So it'd be the current license we're renewing, because otherwise we don't have anything to transfer.
Got it, okay, so we're just gonna vote on that afterwards for this that we just amended.
Voting to transfer
Gotcha.
to
Okay.
approve next year's license, and then the paperwork kind of fall into place as things get approved.
Okay. Any other? Yes.
Yeah, just so that I understand, the license, the restaurant will still be operated under Roybo's Bristol
The corporate name
Part
does
2.
not change.
That's the corporate name.
Correct.
From what I read, you'll probably be changing the name of the restaurant. but so the things that are coming up later on in our appointments and approvals for next year, that's still gonna be under that name. That's just to clear it up, because there was a lot going on in this packet.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Everybody else good? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
David, are you voting?
Yes, I vote yes.
Okay. 4 yes, 1 no. Passes. Thank you very much, and best of luck in the new
luck.
change.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good luck down there. I'm looking forward to coming down there, guys.
Yep.
Okay, next we will have, if quorums are present, our tri-board meeting with the school committee and the school building committee. So if you all want to crowd up front, and those of you with quorums who want to initiate a meeting, please do so.
Since you guys are gonna have to, okay.
Oh yeah, you guys are always front and center. That goes without saying. We have special seats for you guys.
Can you see?
Well,
My name's
someone else. All right, good. All right, more room.
Oh, we got another chair here, too.
Yeah, we have a chair if somebody needs it.
And Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Go ahead, Dave.
Why aren't we broadcasting HD? This is crazy. What a lousy picture.
It's not in the budget.
Somebody hit the mute button.
We don't have our. We don't have our makeup on, Dave. That's why.
Okay, so Barbie, do you want to call you have
Sure.
a?
Yep. Call the Georgetown School Committee meeting to order.
Right, and does the new building have a quorum, or?
It depends on whether we count Stu.
Let's just do it to be safe, and then.
I
right,
believe we
'cause
should anyway.
Doesn't
so-
hurt to do
Yes,
it.
no, we'll call the building committee to order also.
Excellent. Well, thanks for everybody being here, especially we did this relatively short notice. If I could offer a couple guidelines based on some past discussions. Obviously, there's a lot happening with the Pembroke School. And as boards, two of our key functions are to ensure the public stays safe and communicate the facts as best we have them to the public. So I would ask, first of all, in terms of facts, if we don't know a number yet, let's commit to a date to get a number. In other words, let's not make up an estimate or a range, okay? Because that's where we get in trouble. And I know sometimes, especially contractors, get put on the hot seat for numbers. So if we don't know it and we know it's important, let's figure out a date as to when we will know it. If we do have a responsible number or a responsible range, we can certainly share that. You know, I think let's make sure that we focus on what we know and what is going on right now and the facts as best we know them. The other piece of this is that I think we all know there was a delay in construction based on findings. And I know there was some discussion in terms of responsibility for those delay costs. So let's be clear. We have a contract with a professional company. We have lawyers. They have lawyers. This will be, if there is any issue, will be handled by the contract and the legal team. It's not really appropriate to talk about it in a public setting, because when we talk about litigation, we do it in executive summary and confidence until it is so appropriate to make it public. So rest assured, anytime the town of Georgetown enters into a professional contract and there are concerns that we are going to incur costs because a mistake was made, we will always pursue that matter. But in terms of resolving it in this room, it won't happen. It's going to be done based on the contract with the people who are responsible, the legal teams responsible for closing that. So with that, I'd really like to focus on where we're at, what we've done, what we know, and kind of what's going to happen in the future as we know it. And then if there's something that we do want to know as a fact, you know, let's put it as important on the table, and let's create a follow-up date to get the fact. Okay? All right,
Sounds good.
I see head nods, that's good. So I will
I
pass.
don't agree with any of that.
I know that. I'm gonna hit the mute button on you too. I'm gonna turn it over to you guys then for an update.
I think it would be best handled by Carl. He can explain the situation that we have and the reason we're all here to help make a decision on how to proceed.
Okay, thanks, Ellie. We appreciate the quickness of your response. We are in the middle of working with the entire team, including the contractor, and trying to come up with the best strategy for moving forward. And obviously doing it safely, doing it efficiently, and doing it economically. And one of the items that's come to light that I think is the prime reason for all of your boards getting together tonight is how to handle a portion of the project that is potentially a change. Let me start off, just refresh people's minds. This is the proposed site plan. The existing school sits right here, but this is, the proposed site plan, what it would look like when it was all done. And I put this up here just to note that, here's the new school. In the footprint of the old school would be one playing field. Notice that these existing playing fields up here were untouched. You might have recalled, there's been a little bit of discussion, but during the course of the project, these fields were left basically out of the project boundaries. All the work is happening here now, and even when the school comes down in the end, there's a leaching field being built here, a parking lot being built here, but there was no real work being done on the existing field. But due to the soil issues that are here, it became apparent immediately that one of the biggest costs is going to be disposing of excess fill material, including topsoil. Just briefly, the construction sequence for a contractor in a project like this is to clear the trees, and then the next step is to strip the topsoil. On many projects, the contractor will either stockpile that to use it in the end when the final landscaping is done, then you can use that topsoil as material, or if it's, as in this case, it's a fairly tight site with very limited areas to stockpile anything, they would have brought it off site, but they would have sold it or used it on some other project. So that's one issue, is what to do with the topsoil, because now that topsoil has been tested, is above certain limits, can't be used in the way ordinary topsoil would have been used. So that's one issue. The other is when the contractor goes to create the new grading here, there's going to be an excess of material as well that has to be handled, and in this case disposed of off-site at a very dear cost, because it has to be transported to a proper location. So in strategizing ways to minimize those costs, one area that we came back to that we had identified very early on is this field here in the northeast corner of the site, which is a low field there. That we started talking with the contractor, including the site contractor. What if we were to use that area first as a stockpile area, that we could just hold material here so that it wouldn't have to go off-site, and potentially it could be used. For instance, one of the challenges for the contractor is he needs to fill this area, but he can't fill it obviously until the building comes down, which is in the summer of 2015. So if he could store material here until that time, then the building comes down, he could use that material there. So that was one thought, and it sort of grew into, well, what if we, because this is low, what if we stored all the material there, and then put the proper cover on it, at the end of the project. We could save a very substantial cost for, one, stripping and trucking that topsoil off, and two, provide an area for storing excess fill material as well. And in the end, it would bring up the level of this field. We haven't done final quantities here in terms of the exact location, so we can't say necessarily that this field will end up level with the other fields. It may end up even higher than the other fields, to be honest, we can't be assured that it would end up level, but the contractor, site contractor is still working on doing calculations, how much is needed here. There's another low spot here that could absorb some fill, and obviously that low spot there. So the real changes that are being proposed then, looking for sort of consensus in dealing with the contractors' pricing aspects right now is, can the town rather, allow the project access to this site now? It's beyond the project limits. And there are sort of two consequences to that. One is that field is going to be out of commission for a long period of time then, because, as we said, even if they could move all the material there now, unfortunately, they're using it to stockpile when this comes down, and this isn't coming down till the summer of 2015, when they would then move over some of that material to here, and then they could final grade this area. So in terms of rebuilding a field on that location, it would happen probably towards the end of the summer of 2015, fall of 2015. They could plant it. You have to allow it a season to grow, so in the spring it would still not be good in the spring of 2016. So you really wouldn't be able to play on this again probably till the summer of 2016 there. So that's one significant change, and that would start right away. In other words, it would be out of commission. The second would be the condition of that field might be, let's call it less than ideal, because the fill material is topsoil, and that's organic, and you really should only use that in the upper part where you're planting grass. But if we start stripping this and storing a lot of it there, you have the potential for some settlement over time. One of the things we can do to reduce that, and we will be doing everywhere on the site where there's landscape areas, remember the consultant who was talking about separating the on-site material from the clean material that's going to be put on top of it, that there'd be a fabric. It's a, you know, in some cases it could be snow fence. I think the contractor actually thinks it's more economical to use some kind of geotextile fabric that comes in much wider rolls that will go down, but there's a separation. So should anyone ever be digging in the future, you'd actually hit that layer before you hit the native soil there. Well, they have fabrics that actually do some work structurally, these geotextile fabrics. So that could minimize somewhat the settlement that you would get in that field. And our consultant, our geotech engineer, tells us that it would be acceptable as a play field, but there would be some settlement. It would need some annual maintenance to fill in the low spots. We understand that sort of happens there now anyways, from earlier discussions, at least in portions of these fields. There is some settlement there, and again, it may be because there's too much organic material there and it has been settling over time, but in any event, so we just want to add that sort of caveat too, that if this plan does make sense, otherwise you got to understand it's not going to be a perfect field, it's not going to be ideal, there will be some settlement there. But it will be safe, it will have that, you know, layer of clean fill on top of it. We're working on exactly how much that should be. It could be as much as 3 feet. We think it might be more like 2 feet or even 18 inches, depending on whether we ever want to put an irrigation sprinkler system in there, as in here. Even though the allowable layer could be, say, as thin as 18 inches, we may want a little bit more than that, so that if you were digging to put in an irrigation system in the future, you wouldn't hit that geotextile fabric unnecessarily, and it'd be sort of awkward as you're installing, you know, all the cross mains for all the irrigation heads to have to, you know, deal with that. So the more efficient thing would just be to arrive at a level of fill that is acceptable, and we think 2 feet is probably the right number in that sense, even if we get relief from the DEP on the thickness here, that to allow for that future irrigation, we would count on 2 feet of clean fill. So it's still safe from that point of view. The other issue too is, again, a slight change, obviously, just by having any activity. I want to go to this map now. This is the same map, but it's not quite as understandable. You might, there's the school, there's the existing school, here are the fields we're talking about, so there's the low field we're talking about. To get material to this site, the other change would be that there need to be some sort of construction traffic going through there. We want to stay away from the school, So we're not suggesting that they cross here. They'd have to construct a new path in there, you know, lay down some stone and create a field, a road rather, for vehicles to get into that area during. And the traffic would be during the school day, but again, the contractor understands that that traffic can't happen during hours of morning arrival or hours of afternoon pickup. So it would be a little different than was planned again, you know, when the school thought they had access to those fields, you know, for recess, even though they don't right now, but they're playing recess using the paved area right here.
Carl, can I just ask 2 quick questions here while you're on that? So when you're talking about the fill levels, you were saying 18 inches to 2 feet?
Of clean fill on
Of
top,
clean
the
fill on-
capping, yes.
Of capping, on top of what's there right now?
No, on top of
Whatever
whatever
you
they
put
move
there.
from here to
Gotcha,
there.
okay.
We're talking significant, 8-9 feet
So,
of material there.
from a technical standpoint, adding 8-9 feet all around the woods area, how do you deal with that?
You have to slope it back. You know, we are very close. You can see those lines. We're very close. The brook is down here. There are setbacks. They'd have to taper it back. So that's a slight modification too, in that by coming up, you do have to come back a little bit.
Right.
So you lose a little bit horizontally, but you'd actually gain some, because right now there's a row of trees
Yep.
in there separating. Those would be cleared, we would think. In essence, you would move that field sideways. So you're probably not losing playing area, but you are tapering it back so you don't
Gotcha,
impact
okay.
those.
And the second question is, so when you drive into Pembroke right now, there's that big hill on the left
There's
where
a,
you have those arrows
There's
right
a
now.
berm, yeah.
So are you suggesting that there's, first of all, is there space? Do we own land off the field that could be forward, left of the fields right now?
This is sort of diagrammatic.
Yeah.
Most likely they'd come in here and go over there, because here the berm ends,
Yeah.
and so you could make the connection to the driveway, so
Okay.
you wouldn't be going beyond your property line. The property line is into the tree line here, it's not at the edge of the
Gotcha
clearing.
on that. So
So-
in essence, those fields would be inoperable until the project is done?
Yes, well, again, this could happen fairly quickly. They're gonna be moving earth within the next month or so, over to here. There might be a little bit more later on, but most of that earth moving is gonna happen right away, in terms of that traffic. And once it's there, it's stockpiled. The contractor doesn't need to get back into it, necessarily. And we sort of left this part out of the discussion right now, but obviously something has to happen there too. And it's conceivable, I guess. We haven't really attacked that yet. It's not in our scope, but this field could be addressed relatively soon and completed. Even though the stockpile sits back here, there might be a way to do the capping here. Strip the topsoil, put it here, bring in the capping there, and get that field back online, both for the kids at recess and for the town. And then future access to here could be once this school comes down, then they can get in this way, back and forth, and not disturb that. So that is conceivable. And there might be one small gain, if you want to look at it that way, that this actually gets attacked early, and there's a place to put that topsoil too.
George, question?
Yeah, isn't there a current irrigation system
There
already
is.
in there?
There is.
So what happen
Probably,
to that?
it'd probably have to be replaced one way or the other, whether it's, raised or taken out, but just to do the work, because the topsoil has to be stripped.
That's on both the upper and lower field?
I don't think there's irrigation back here.
There's only one.
Just the upper, I think.
I think it's just this one field too.
It was just installed last year, right?
I don't think it goes back to the softball field here. I think it's the Little League field here.
Yeah,
that would have to
Yeah, but-
come out.
But that
So-
space is used for a lot of sports, like some of the high school teams practice up there, lacrosse
Yeah,
practice up there.
yeah.
I mean, it's used for more than just the GAA sports.
So by way of just, if I could throw 2 questions then, is, first and foremost, so I think of, moving dirt and, I think of wind blowing dirt, I think of, kids going there to play. So you can talk about the safety measures to ensure that if we do this move, that, obviously everyone at Pembroke or anyone on the property is safe.
Sure. It has to all be done under the same health and safety plan, soil management plan as the construction activities. And that includes there's a fairly extensive wheel wash area for trucks coming and going through the site. To get through here, it's really industrial quality, almost like a car wash site thing to wash off tires, to make sure none of that material is being spread onto the roads, whether they're leaving to go on public roads or even just leaving to go across the site. That's going to be set up right at the boundary of the teacher's parking lot and where the construction zone starts. So it's inside the construction zone right there. The trucks would have to be covered and the material, handled the same way in terms of minimizing dust, as we say, as any other vehicles leaving the site. They have special vehicles with the covers on them to prevent that dust. Any piles over here would have to be protected as well, and they do have material. They have both spray-on material that they apply. I forget what the name of it is, Pat. You might remember that.
There was a couple of different.
Tactifier.
Yeah.
Tactifier, I think.
Yeah.
That you spray on. It's organic. It can decompose. It can be left there. And in the end, once they have the piles established, what they usually do is plant them. They do get some grass on there and or seed to again stabilize them so that the dust is minimized. But the dust would be monitored here just as it is here, by the same plan and by the same monitors are on site full time during all construction activities. So from that point of view, I don't think that there's any further issue with the safety of the teachers and
do you know
kids.
do you know what the process is when they're actually doing the dumping, when that would create the dust? Are they there with the misters?
Yeah, right now,
There they are.
in this site, they have these huge, it looks like snowmaking machines, the way they mist water across the entire site. Over here, I'm not sure, we haven't talked exactly how they would do it, whether they'd set up another mister, or whether they would just do it with a hose here, but again, they'd be wetting it down as they're placing it there, to keep the dust down.
Okay.
Carl,
Can
could
I
you?
just do my follow-up? I have one more.
Sorry, yes.
So, going back with my numbers caveat from before, do we have somewhat of a responsible estimate as to what this would save? Obviously, what's being proposed. So are we comfortable saying a number that this would be saving by doing this?
Again, we're still checking quantities, but based on preliminary quantities of material that have to be moved, it's in the vicinity of like 12 to 13,000 cubic yards of material that has to be moved. Our consultants, know pricing per cubic yard of that kind of material. And when you do the math, and again, we haven't, nailed this down with the contractor, but it's approaching $1 million
In saving?
in saving, if that doesn't have to go off-site. That quantity at the typical unit price for disposal of that kind of material. So it's very significant. That's why we we're pushing for that kind of a location on site.
And that's savings off incremental costs that we're incurring. It's not savings off the base project, just to clarify.
No,
That's
off the incremental
we're
costs.
minimizing the additional cost by
Yes,
doing
we're
this.
minimizing the cost of the soil, impact on the site.
Could you just clarify for everyone about the health and safety plan and the idea of dumping or stockpiling this soil over there? Is Russ and the other companies on board with this
Yes,
as a
yeah,
safety?
this came about through a real collaborative effort at the work site. With Russ was there, the environmental consultant, as well as the general contractor, the site contractor, Pat, ourselves, our consultants, our site consultants, our civil engineers. So it was quite a collaboration, and he's definitely on board that this can be done safely, can be done within the plan. In the end, it would have the same kind of cap that any other exposed landscaped area is gonna have, the same as this field is gonna have. So it would be just as safe from that point of view. He has no problem with the plan.
And then the other question would be, the building committee asked for a peer reviewer on this situation. And Pat, would you like to fill us in?
He's been sent everything that we have. As a matter of fact, I spoke to Jim Luca today from Green Seal, and I spoke to him about this particular idea. We had sent him the request for proposal that was sent to the contractor. Yeah, he thinks if it's acceptable from the standpoint of the building committee and everybody else involved, school committee. Yeah, he thinks makes perfect sense, because it's clear that since this is an incremental piece of the overall analysis that's going on right now, which is a very complex pricing analysis for the contractor, But that one decision is pretty straightforward. If we've get rid of the 13,000 plus there's another 15,000 yards of soil, you're saving over $1 million by keeping it on site. And that's give or take a couple $100,000, you're talking over $1 million. And everybody, the consultant, Kyle's consultant, the peer reviewer, all looked at it, and as far as they're concerned, it makes sense, if it's functionally doable.
And safety.
Chairman, I have a
Yes.
question.
Yeah.
Sure, go ahead, Dave.
So we're going to store it where Carl just showed us. And so when the project's done, what happens to all that soil?
He
Yeah.
explained that it gets capped and used as a field.
Yeah, a small bit of it, David, goes to fill the excavation when the old building comes down, and would be capped under the new play field there. But the rest of it then would get graded out, and remain in place, and then capped with we believe 2 feet of clean fill brought off site. And that clean fill
So
is
my question then is, have you looked at or has any consideration been given to the change in topography and how that would affect any type of water, groundwater discharge? Because aren't you changing the layout of that particular piece of the property? And my concern would be could that cause some issues in terms of water? I mean, that might be a George question. He kind of knows a lot about more about the water, I think, than anybody in town. So,
you know, our civil engineers are looking at the impacts, but we don't believe it would impact the Conservation Commission. We'd stay out of the wetland buffer areas. In terms of the flow of water, it's still generally flowing in the same directions. There need to be some, localized, depending on how high this comes. If it's above the adjacent field, there may need to be a swale there, and something to pick that up. Some, sort of detail looks at it. But in general, our consultants are comfortable with the way the water would flow off the site in the end.
I think one of the things,
Sure, go ahead.
one of the things we talked about in our meeting is for you guys to really determine how much soil there is there, so that we don't get a condition where we have a higher tier and a lower tier field, and to plan it so that it can be across the whole thing fairly flat, because I think that's the most flexible in an athletic sense.
Sure it is.
And a function sense for the schools in the town. So I wouldn't want to see it as a 2-tier thing, and you just have to do your calculations to
Try
make
to
it
balance
work.
this whole
Exactly.
plateau here.
Exactly.
So, as a slight tangent, we have to deal with the other fields, which is not part of the scope. I understand that. Who owns that right now? Is that the school committee or the school building committee? And is there any kind of time frame for when we want to understand? I'm just thinking if there's any chance to combine solutions here. I'm not looking for the answer now. I'm just wondering, where that is in terms of who owns it and timeline.
The school committee is responsible for the care and management of the
That's what I thought.
fields.
But the construction of it, would that be more likely to be in the school building committee?
Yes, the construction.
Because it's all part, it can be all part of the same project and all coordinated very easily that way, and then turned over to the school department to maintain it.
Well, the key is, so let's even before we go there, it needs to be assessed, a solution proposed and evaluated, and I'm assuming it's not free. There has to be a cost for the town to evaluate, the voters to evaluate. So, Barbie, is that on your radar at this point?
Not
Or
necessarily.
I don't know if
No.
that's necessarily
Yeah.
accurate.
$4 million still in the school budget, the school building project that we can,
Right.
the bids came in under our budget that we're going to hopefully use without going over the.
maybe half that's
Or
MSBA.
2 million, sorry, 2
Yeah.
million.
Yeah, it's 4 million overall, 2 million for
Okay,
the
well, that's
town's
fine.
money, so-
Well, let's just, this way, if we don't, that's
Can I
great.
jump in here? That's been repeated often, and it's incorrect. We have bonding authority for $46 million. We can bond $46 million. And the school is, the school building committee, the MSBA is, at this point, originally scheduled to pay us $20 million. So, the bid came in at 32. there's still 4 million
So,
available.
so in other terms, you're absolutely right. In other words, there's the ability to get the $4 million with the bonding, whereas now we would only be paid back, instead of basically half of it, it's $2 million less than half. So, in other words, if you want to try to keep the cost to the town as we all indicated at the beginning of the project, then you got to think about the $2 million one versus the 4. But you're right, it is bonded for all of it.
So let's just jump back a second. So I don't want to jump to the solution. All right. I just want to know. So Barbie, from your team's perspective, is this on your agenda, and do you have a timeline at this point in terms of trying to resolve what you want to propose for the fields?
Well, because this was just, we just found out about this on Wednesday, so Carol and I have not had an opportunity to
Okay.
talk about that.
That's I just want to understand, because I think it would make sense potentially to do maybe another January meeting altogether with the latest updates and how things are going, and maybe
Yeah, that
the
would be
field
good.
solution there too. Because again, I don't want to. Hold on, Dave.
I don't think we have enough facts.
Could I?
Yeah, and again, I want to do it when the facts are ready. In the I was just wondering
Yeah, I
in
think
terms of where it
January
is on the
doable.
list right
There
now,
are a
because I
couple
know
of
this is
pieces
all
missing.
happening very fast. So, okay, but it is the school committee that, in essence, will kind of drive the agenda on this, and then we'll apportion who drives the solution oversight based on what you guys come up with and
Correct.
present.
I just have a little slight question. When I heard January, the decision on whether we can dump it or not, I think has to happen.
No, I was talking just the
Just
existing
how to-
fields. That's
okay,
that's
got it.
separate. I just a little separate little trip.
Just a little confused
Now
there.
it's.
Thank you.
I'll let Dave ask his. Or actually, Pam, you had your hand up. Do you have a?
Yes, I was just wondering about the construction road that you were proposing there. And if you had considered if there was any alternative, possibly behind the school, because it just
Yeah,
seems
it's
like it
real
would
tight here,
interfere with
unfortunately.
school
Really
life a
tight.
lot if it's in front of the school. And, I mean, I know there's a little road right now that goes behind the Pembroke, and
Yeah.
maybe that's not usable, I don't know. I was just wondering if you had looked at that.
See this dotted line? That's the buffer zone from the wetland, and that comes within a few feet of the corner of the school there. And it would be very difficult and problematic, to try to get through there without impacting the school and without impacting the buffer zone.
Okay, because they're
there.
big trucks.
They're big
Like,
trucks.
they're not little,
Yes.
okay.
So we
So
think-
that's not really an
and-
option then?
And they'll need to take some care here. It's
Yes.
not the cheapest solution either, unfortunately, because, again, coming on and off the road here, they have to clean their wheels again.
Right.
For driving across there, although they'll try and build a road in such a way that becomes a clean
Clean
path.
material.
With clean material. But I think, that's the better alternative, stay further away from the kids, and away from the buffer zone.
It's kind of the only alternative, is that what
Yes.
you're telling me?
Virtually.
Okay.
Whatever the solution is, I mean, remember, that field has to all be stripped anyway, whether it's done now or done later. If you
Right,
do it now, you'll have the option of putting it into the surplus area.
Yeah.
If you do it later, you're gonna be in the same predicament, you'll have to haul it off, there'll be no place to put it, so.
And also, if the two options are that it gets stockpiled on site there or taken off site, but in both cases, they'll be driving down the same road all the way.
Right.
So
Let me just grab Dave, Gary, if I can, and then we'll go to Dave. Go ahead.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, and this is a question for Ellie and Jeff and the school building committee. The original budget included the additional field. So, and we were over on the site work number that the state would contribute. So we were on our own as far as that's concerned. So it's not really a 50-50 split.
How do you know that?
That's what
We
Dave
have
said.
additional dollars, right?
Mike.
Am I right or wrong?
That's what I think they did say, Dave. Is
You're
that
right.
they did say it's not a match. It's on our dime. It was more a matter of how.
But the new field, the additional field, is part of the entire $46 million tag,
Correct.
price tag for the school.
That when you
Yeah.
say the
He's
new
talking
field,
about
just
when
the one that
Pembroke comes
replaces the
down.
When
Pembroke building.
Pembroke comes down.
Right.
Right, the new field that replaces the Pembroke building is part of the school
Correct.
budget.
Right,
Yeah.
and,
Okay.
but that's not part of
And
this
I just want to
discussion.
make that as a point because, and we were on our own pretty much on that because the state wasn't going to be contributing any money towards that because we were over the 3% or whatever that number was for site work.
8%, right?
8%.
8% or whatever. Yeah, I didn't know what the actual number was, but
Yeah, that's
okay.
correct.
Thank you.
Carries the question.
Gary,
Yeah, it's sort of, on safety, I think the route that the school committee was going down. Just what is the route of the trucks gonna be? Because I believe one of the things we had assured the parents in the town was that we were coming in on this emergency access road.
No, we've never been using that.
No,
When did we lose that?
We've never
We never had it.
entertained that
We've
idea.
always had the traffic
Yes.
going through here?
Yeah.
We always had, yeah. The only activity here is gonna be when there's actual work to be done there, which is installing a water line and then creating the
Okay,
secondary
so
access
all of this
road.
traffic is gonna have to be
Yes.
going through, you won't be going out, my question was gonna be, you're not going out the Elm
No.
Street and back in?
Nothing's going out that way.
there is a prohibition, obviously, trucking will not happen during arrival and dismissal times. There's a prohibition on trucking during those periods of time.
And can there be one when the kids are outside playing during that recess area time?
Well, they're gonna be actually outside that area, they're not gonna be traversing in that area. The children are playing on the area that is between the road and the school, so the trucking will be circulating around the outside of it. And I think
Then
that's
if
kind
I
of
may,
touched on
Mr.
anyway.
Go ahead.
As well.
Okay. Then on the fill, is this just basically the dirt, or does this doesn't include stumps or anything?
No stumps.
Just
Okay,
dirt.
are they grinding the stumps on site, or can they not do that? Are
No,
the
they're grinding the stumps.
So will that be some type of usable material, or?
We're literally getting the word on that as we
Okay.
speak.
Yeah.
What they're trying to do, it's amazing operation. They grab these trees and pull them out of the ground.
All right.
They don't cut them. They
Nope.
pull them out, and they haul them to a place and they sort of shake as much dirt as they can to separate out the dirt. And then they grind this, then they cut them and grind the stumps.
So if that is safe, that could
And-
possibly
right,
be
the
some capping
concentration
material
in
or
the-
something.
In those chips is below the standard, then they can take it off-site.
Or can you use that for capping? Could you-
Well,
you
what we're
know-
talking about mostly is topsoil that's needed to grow grass and
Okay.
not mulch. We have very little need for mulch on
Okay.
site. But they could use it as mulch elsewhere, and so it has
If it's
value.
safe, okay.
Yeah.
So I have a question, I think this would probably go to the school building committee as well. Is the bid that's gonna come in going to include the actual replacement of the fields and fences and infields and stuff like that? Are you guys going to produce part of that with the contractor, or is this something separate that we need to consider on the school committee side?
Right now, as we said, we're sort of leaving out these two fields, and on this field, we weren't necessarily planning on redefining a ball field as part of this change. We're just trying to move this along as quick as we can and allow them to stockpile material there and know that they have to cap it. So we weren't designing a new ball field here yet
Okay,
on this site.
but we need to understand, I mean, we're gonna have to do it either way anyhow,
Yes,
so
eventually.
we just need to know all the all-in costs, and I think the school committee's gonna have to really,
Right,
the
'cause
school
even,
building committee's gonna have
because
to.
even the existing fields are gonna have to be redone.
Yeah.
So,
And
speak,
then, I'm sorry, I
so
have one more question on this,
Go ahead.
damn it. So Carol, this is a sports nightmare in town. So I look at a couple things. One, we're losing 3 fields. We probably won't get that upper field until the fall of 2014 at the earliest, maybe the spring of 2015. It's got to go through a growing season next year. Those 2 fields are out there.
Yeah.
The lower field's out till 2017. And the artificial turf field is going in next spring, if I understand that right. So, because we're gonna be voting and signing a bond tonight on the artificial turf field. So, do you need to reconsider holding off on doing that artificial turf field to have a field for the season? That's just something to think about, and we can talk about it when we get into the bond issue, but
I'm not sure I understand what you're asking me questions.
I'm asking is, do you need to think about holding off on redoing a field and not making it playable for a season while we lost these other fields? So hold off a year on the artificial turf
You
field.
mean shifting what
Keep the
is
field in
done in
play.
Pembroke over to the high school field?
What field in play? Football field.
The
Football field.
the artificial turf field that's going in,
Keep it in play, don't.
the plan is to put that in the spring, right? Coming up,
April, correct.
right? My question is,
I don't know that I'm gonna lose it. I'm trying to understand why.
construction.
when they start construction on the artificial turf field, how long will that field be out of?
Till July.
Till July, so a spring season, it's gone. Which And my question would be, do we need to consider holding off until the summer to do that?
I don't know, I'd have to talk
Okay.
with.
I think
you
it
know,
just,
with Pat.
talking to the GA baseball, head of GA baseball, I did talk to him a little bit, especially for the kids who are affected, the younger kids. A lot of the younger kids can play baseball anywhere. It's not an exact science at that age. They just pretty much need some grass and a stick and a ball. There is going to have to be certainly some shuffling that goes on, but I'm pretty confident that with the brain power we have versus holding up major projects and doing the right thing for a long-term solution. We used to play ball at the grandstands at American
Right.
Legion Park, right? So my opinion talking to him is that, yes, it's inconvenient consideration, but we do have some other fields coming in, and then that turf field, as faster it gets in, actually gives us more options and more playability.
I'm not
So-
telling you, I don't need a solution to, I just need you to think about it.
No, I asked that same question. I think people are prepared to do what they have to do to make
Yeah.
this work.
They build
Jim?
it
Down for
3
2
to
months.
5 times as much.
You get 4 times more use out of that area.
Yeah.
And bandstand area is gonna be upgraded, so for baseball, for little kids baseball.
It's gonna take just a town-wide conversation with anybody, and we'll
Right.
figure it out.
Right.
But this is the first I heard that we're losing all the fields. You know, the bottom field was fine with me, but I'm just a little concerned about that, not only for the GAA and the fields, but just our own kids.
Well, until they were capped, we were gonna lose them anyway, right?
Right.
Yeah.
What?
Until they were capped, we were gonna lose them anyway.
Yeah, they haven't come up with a plan for
No,
capping.
no, I understand that, but
And this can
I
tie
just
out to the
understand
capping.
that
This
that
could tie
would
out to the
happen sooner
capping.
than later.
Right. Well, this
So
could
that's why-
happen same time, right? Or soon if we wanted to.
Well, I think that's what I'm struggling with is there's sort of piecemeal discussion here. So I'm looking for, how do we put it all together in a
Mhm.
plan so we know when, what is available? Because, I'm still waiting to hear about whether or not there's gonna be anything done to the playground. Is that gonna be the new leaching field? When's that gonna happen in relationship to this? So that's kind of what I'm feeling is, would helpful to me would be to figure out what's gonna be done when.
A critical path, yeah.
Yeah, and then we can bring together all the people who are impacted by it, because I know I haven't had the conversation with GAA that those fields aren't gonna be available at all, but they're looking at a backup plan. I know they are, because they
Yeah,
said to me,
I talked to him, I said,
what if we,
I suggested think about what baseball looks like without those fields
Yeah.
available. I
Yeah.
talked to him about it a month ago, whatever. Just said, start thinking about what
Yeah.
that could look like. And like I said, I think we have enough resourceful people to work through it.
Yeah.
But I do agree, and that's why I was asking about the capping plan, or whatever the plan is for the other fields. But I do think there are 2 issues. One is saving what is estimated to be $1 million in construction
Yes,
costs,
that's
and actually probably creating a more usable field, quite honestly. That lower
In the
field
long
is,
run.
is kind of the,
I think the
you flip a
long-term
coin, if you lose, you have to play down the lower field.
On
But, so that's the key part here, and again, that is part of the key vote tonight, right? Just to clarify, that's really what we're talking about, is this plan to relocate the dirt and do that, and then we have other issues that we're addressing. Rob?
To clarify the 1 million, does the 1 million include, reworking anything? Getting the access to it, reworking the field so that they're ready to use next time, the fencing, the irrigation? Does the
As we
1
said,
million
it-
include that, or is
It
it just for
included getting the
stockpiling?
material there, creating whatever they needed to get it there.
Yeah.
But we didn't talk about actually, rebuilding a field, putting new backstops or
So there would be
clay
that's
infield.
probably a number
you know.
that we should know what it's gonna cost to,
Right.
what that is it really a 1 million savings?
Together with all
Probably
that.
not quite that.
But
Well, technically, apples to apples is just a grass field.
It's a grass field.
That's apples to apples in terms of savings,
have a grass
because there's
field.
no baseball field to speak of there now. And then if we want to do more to it, that's where we'd have to understand whether that's GAA funding or town funding, or how we do that.
Well, true apples to apples is that I think you're doing it right, because you're getting the sub base right there, all set. And if you can get a price for that, because after that, the topping of this versus if they didn't do anything is gonna be relatively the same, because you have to do all the topping anyways.
That's true. That's a good point.
So
Yeah.
you may have it right, but to your point, it would be great to let the town see the overall number, but keep that as a separate number, because it's gonna happen either way.
Right. And Rob, you're right, there is a backstop down there, so there is, it's not completely,
Yeah,
but there
and
is a
that would be-
backstop, there
that
are
would
some
be taken
lights,
out
you
too
know,
when
so
you
there are.
Irrigation, and there's
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
infield
Yeah,
work.
all that
Below
would be
there's no-
taken out
below
to
there's
do
no
either way.
irrigation.
No, but the other one would still be crossing
Yeah,
over,
yeah.
so
I
so
think
there's
the
enough
irrigation's
to-
just on the infield.
Yeah, so, I mean, they'll have to cross over. Yeah, it's minor.
Yeah.
I'm just saying there's a number associated.
No, we do. We need the big picture here. And I guess, we need the, I want to work for the end. What does it all look like in the end, and what's the cost and critical path to get there? I think we need an exercise to do that. Guys, there's always unintended consequences that we're not thinking about here. I'm not a land guy. I mean, what aren't we thinking about on our end that we should be asking you?
Well, Phil, I want to pick up on that, but also David's comment about drainage, because I'm not sure he was meaning this, but I think a question that needs to be answered is, it's not the surface drainage that would just be a question to verify, but it would be once the water perks down and then moves out when you're coming in with that kind of fill and you have that embankment to the wetlands, I don't know what kind of seepage takes place. I don't know what, if any, kind of cost would be associated with something like that to address that. So I don't know if that's what David was after, but that's a potential item that needs to be, I think, addressed.
So this, and again, this move then, and I think to fair to say, is not, there's not 100%, the details are not 100% clear in terms of the final piece of it. It's more the major concept of what's trying to accomplish.
Right.
And then the knowledge that we're gonna take the safe and appropriate route as we do it.
You gotta be very careful when we're just making bold decisions to do stuff without really understanding the complete picture. And when we talk about rainwater, drainage issues, is there any oversight? I mean, do we have any, this is completely going outside of our conservation and planning, right? I mean, there's no oversight on this, or is there? That's a
You can go to site plan review. for this,
Or
just
or
as-
you could get a technical peer review. That's a good point to go.
Oh, yeah,
Just to make sure it's done.
Do we know how much we have to cap yet?
No.
Is it 3 feet or is it 2 feet?
No, we're supposed to, by the end of the week, they hope that they hear back from DEP. Right now, it's still under the DEP preview, which is 3 feet. Russ thought he would hear back by the end of the week as to whether there's relief. What it boils down to, it's either gonna be part of DEP's regulatory process, or if it's not, it's left to the LSP. And they would make a recommendation based on the fact that we have comparable background material. So we're waiting to hear back on that. So right now, the way the proposals have been asked for, if it stays under the DEP preview, it's a 3-foot cap unless there's impervious material like concrete or pavement. And then it's been decided it would be a 2-foot cap if in fact it was less than that. In certain areas, it would be even less than that to a foot. But that's would be determined once he hears back from DEP.
And what makes it beyond the DEP purview?
If it's determined to
If
be
it's
naturally
determined to
occurring.
be
Okay,
naturally
so
occurring.
when should we know that?
By the end of
By
the week.
by the
By
end of
the
the
end of
week,
this
Russ
week,
tells
we
us
should-
by the end of the week, he has been talking to DEP, and he's got assurances that they're trying to get the information. Understanding that we're dealing with DEP, if it rolled to early next week, I wouldn't be overly shocked, but that's the goal that they have right now.
Why are we focusing on this one piece of the puzzle versus waiting? The last building committee meeting we had, we talked about the schedule of when they would have these numbers, and it was talked to be about 2 weeks. And 2 weeks is consistent with what Pat's saying now, and we're very close to having the big picture, and I don't understand why we're all of a sudden trying to do this within a week without knowing the big picture, and I just think we wanna know the big picture.
Are we holding them up from doing any work?
Well, what it boils down to right now, Pete, is we right now have got authorization to move ahead with the monitoring of the clearing process, which is coming to a conclusion. Once we get done with that, we obviously, if we're gonna continue, we need to obviously have monitoring, a monitoring agreement with the environmental firm, whoever that might be. And also, we need to have a finalized change order for the contract. And that's where we're looking for these two things to come together, and the goal has been to have them come together this week. So in the next couple of days, we're hoping that we're able to get these things pulled together so we can have acceptable numbers on both sides to be able to move this thing forward. And the contractor, who has been very, very cooperative, as a matter of fact, as I was leaving tonight, he actually sent in his 4 alternate proposals, which we'll be looking at in depth. 2 of them had to do with using the existing fields, and 2 of them are obviously to not allow the use of those fields with the different capping levels. So in the next couple of days, we'll be able to really go through them, and the reason this is on the table tonight, because it's a singular issue. that issue, irrespective of which procedure we use, the singular issue of can you use that particular spot to deposit this material is gonna save in excess of $1 million, whatever the eventual solution happens to be.
But
And,
what if the decision wasn't made tonight, Pat? What happens?
Well, it means that we'll be delayed in obviously trying to bring these things together. So if we don't have a decision tonight, if in fact we came to the conclusion that we had favorable numbers on both sides of the equation, and we could advance those, understanding that we're running out of dollars for the monitoring firm, and we don't have the authority to release the contractor, because we need a change order to release him, it'll simply delay that process.
So will it cost more money to delay?
Anytime you're talking about delaying things, it costs money, which is why we have been exhausting our time and our effort working with the contractor, who again, I give very high marks for being cooperative and available and everything else. Over the holiday weekend, we've spent, I can't tell you how much time we spent reviewing things with the contractor, which has resulted in him sending us stuff this evening, which we haven't had a chance to look at yet. But again, like I said, we're trying to obviously eliminate a gap in construction, but on the same token, balancing that with obviously a plan that's gonna work from a safety standpoint, a plan that's gonna provide protection from everybody, a plan that's gonna be consistent with DEP, all of the environmental consultants, so we can move things forward and keep things on the even keel. And we're getting very close to that point.
Is it the same contractor who's doing the tree work, the same that is doing the excavation, or are they two different
He's
contractors?
gone. Once the clearing guy is done, he's gone. He's working for the site work contractor, who's working for Bray. The clearing contractor basically is done. Now the site work contractor is ready to get going. He's mobilizing, he's got his vehicles there. That requires that we obviously sign a change order for the contractor, and what we have pushed them to do is come up with a number that keeps the job A on schedule, and B encompasses all of the other ramifications that anything could possibly happen relative to this issue. We want this issue to be closed with one fell swoop, one change order, finished. We don't want to have any ramifications down the road.
Okay, so what do we think in terms of, a lot of moving pieces here. We save some money on the bid, we have more costs coming. When do we see a date in terms of when we kind of see where the new budget has ended up?
Well, I think if we had an agreement tonight that we could use the material in that location, that's a substantial savings. And we would use those dollars, once we vetted the dollars with the contractor, we would use those dollars to stir into the MSBA budget, which goes in and automatically talks about reimbursements and dollar values. We would put that all together, and we're hoping to have that done literally this week. We're actually hoping if the numbers came in early enough today to be able to vet those and be able to obviously get notification to the building committee, that we would be ready to meet within 48 hours of Thursday. So we're cognizant of the timing factor, we're cognizant of the fact that we need to properly vet these things and have time to review them. And like I said, it's a very, very complex exercise we're going through with the contractor.
But explain what those numbers, so everybody's clear. Explain what those numbers are that you'll be getting within a few days.
Well, what we've orchestrated with the contractor is that the only subcontractors on the job that would be involved with dealing with the contaminated material would be the site contractors. His people all have 40-hour hazardous training, et cetera, et cetera. The goal is to create a work platform for all the other trades that don't put them working into the contaminated soil. And the way that's done is by over-excavating. As an example, when you dig the foundations, you're over-excavating by 6 or 8 inches. You're putting clean material down. The farm contractor now is working on clean material. When you're excavating for utilities, you're over-excavating by 8 to 10 inches. Contractors, the plumbing contractors, utility contractors, they're working in clean material. So that we're orchestrating with the cooperation of the contractor. Everybody agrees that's the way to do it, to try and keep all of the other contractors working in relatively clean material by obviously placing materials down so that contractors are working either in the building on a slab, which provides no problem, working on the site on clean material, which provides no problem. And for those that have to get into utility excavations where you are, we have someone there that's going to be monitoring the process. And that monitoring is going to be occurring, quite frankly, consistently for the next 4 to 6 months while the heavy dirt is being moved and so forth.
So just to follow up on my question, if I may,
Mhm.
the number that you'll have will be to take the soil, to scarify it, take the soil off the site, stockpile it on the lower field, and to create a a base over the site so that it can be worked on without having to deal with all of these bells and whistles. It will not include anything to do with building new fields or preparing the other 2 upper fields or anything like that. But it will include, again, just the taking the dirt off, stockpiling it, and then preparing the project area site for people to work on. That's correct, okay.
The goal is, once we get done with this project, every aspect of this new work area, every part of the site will be protected with adequate coverage on the site. There'll be no exposed material like you have on the existing fields. Everything is gonna be covered with the appropriate layer of clean material.
And so that includes the lower field that would be, when it's done, would be appropriately covered.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's
So
correct.
let's say that wasn't part of the original scope.
That wasn't part of the original.
And so we would have to do that anyway.
That's correct.
But now the key is a change in elevation, obviously, but that dirt, the key is if this dirt is moved, the end result is it will be covered appropriately in a safe manner.
Absolutely.
You know, so that's not okay, we figure that out later, that's part of the whole scope.
The only issue that I have to think about is this, is that we have about $2 million in site work funds that are available for us right now, right? From the original budget of the bond,
2 million.
Bond,
Four.
you've got 4 million. Yeah.
for site work.
For anything.
Well, we could use it
2
for
million
anything,
of
right?
direct,
For anything.
anticipated direct budget from the town, right? Not
Okay.
including that, right, not MSBA.
Okay. That leaves 2 million left in case we go over budget or any change orders on the school project.
Change order number is a separate item that's within the project. It's not, yeah, that's a side item that's already included.
Okay.
We already have.
So the only worry that I have is I don't have a problem voting tonight to store material over there, I guess, unless the numbers come in that are way higher than we expect. And the worry that I have is that we don't know what those numbers are. If, you know, you talked about just $1 million in transfer of soil out there. Besides that, doing all these fields over, are we gonna have to go back to the town to request more funds for this entire project? And if we have to do that, we need to know that ASAP, which we're gonna get, hopefully soon, at least your portion of it. Then we've gotta figure out what it's gonna cost to do these fields over. In addition to that, we've got a vote on some more work at the high school with the MSBA this year. I mean, there's a lot of things on the table that we've gotta just consider here. It's not it's not a one piece of the pie here. It is a complete.
Yeah, but isn't that's separate from what's those fields weren't part of the original contract, as I understand.
Right. They were not.
Yeah, so you're
They
just
weren't.
adding that into this conversation now.
But if they're adding,
Those fields were not part of the original contract.
Right. So you would have to go back to the town anyway.
no.
We may have
They're
enough
gonna
money.
save money moving that material over to the lower field.
Oh,
save money.
oh, they're gonna
So
save
they're
money.
gonna, that's what they're looking at.
And is what I understand is the number we're gonna get back is the additional cost to us of the effect of this arsenic, essentially.
Yeah, it
It'll
won't
be the
have-
additional cost of that.
Yeah, right now, we have
Right.
no dollars in there to obviously abate anything on the
Right.
2 upper fields.
That's
Only a notice that if you decide to do something, there's a substantial advantage, because you could scrape that loam into the area that we're gonna be storing material. So there's a definite advantage if you were to do that. We're not suggesting it be in this contract or not, but just to lay out the fact that there is an advantage if we're gonna be filling in that lower field, and you're gonna be abating and remediating the upper fields. There's an advantage to doing that now, because you could just scrape that and put that right into the repository on the lower field, where we're putting material anyway, and then you go back in and you cap the top. So
So I
those
think-
are
so-
things you could
right.
attack at once, should you decide to.
So
do
to Phil's question that I had asked before is, eventually we're building to an overall budget. We have all sorts of puts and takes going on here, right? Big ones,
Big
not
ones.
little ones. And so, you know, ideally, in what I said, when I had said whether we had to go back to the town, it sounds like, based on estimates, that there's money in the budget. But there's still a question mark in terms of the remediation of the fields that were not in the scope, and how much that would cost, and if that would fit into the scope. I think, Phil, that's kind of what you're talking about, is where's the net cost here? And hey, in the ideal world, we save some money in the bid, we have contingency money, it all works out and we deal with it. It sounds like we're close to that, and I think that's potentially the one discomfort level, is that we're verbally close, but we don't know for sure. And by the way, this is not a shortcoming at all. You guys have been working very hard to try and get these adjusted numbers in a quick time, because it's real money, and we appreciate the fact that you're bringing to the table real savings to us. But I think, I do think there's real construction cost savings by doing this, and I do think there's been demonstrated expertise in whether it's the drainage, significant for the new school. There's going to be all sorts of drainage you're going to have to deal with. Remediation, we've gone through, was it DEP, right? That, we've gone to plan. So I do think the expertise is there. And in my opinion, it makes sense to move forward this plan with the movement of the soil, because I do think it will be done correctly. The next big piece to be responsible to the voters is, okay, how did this all shake out and where are we at? Because regardless of that, that dirt still has to be moved to put the school in, and that there's still a project in place. The real question is, did we dodge the bullet, as it were, and have all these things balance out to work in the town's favor? And the timeline to do that, and it sounds like it's kind of weak. The remediation plan for the new fields, the old fields, the fields that weren't part of the scope, is TBD. That's not really necessarily in the workshop, but everything else seems to be in that piece of it.
Mr. Chair, I just have a
Sure.
a comment, I guess maybe a question too. So, I don't know if I'm not a conservation person in terms of understanding engineering, environmental engineering and stuff. My question is that what confidence do we have that we're putting 9 feet of soil is not going to create an issue in drainage over there? And is there some way that we can get an engineer to help and give us an expert opinion on that, if not our own Conservation Commission? And the reason I'm asking that is if for some reason we started throwing dirt over there and we realized that this is going to create a major water issue, and major water issues, as you know, what's happening at the high school can cost a lot of money to remediate, are we throwing soil in a place that we're going to have to do a fix in 10 years from now?
I think, Carl, can you talk about that? How much work has
like
been
we said,
done?
we haven't designed anything in detail. It just came up last week. This
Of course,
notion of filling it, but
and that's why you're throwing at us to make a decision to throw dirt on it right now, and we don't know that answer either.
the material we're putting there, remember, is consistent with what's there now. We're not changing, the permeability of the soil. It's what's there now in that sense. And and as we said, with the grading of it, we basically respect the way the land is shaped now. It's still flowing towards the brook, in that area eventually anyways, over the surface there. So, yes, I don't know the details of it more than that, but the big picture is it's consistent with the existing drainage pattern. And we're certainly going to have an engineer on it, to look at it in more detail in the next couple of days.
Just to clarify, we're not changing the surface area per se. It's not like putting a parking lot where there used to be
Right,
trees,
that's
right?
what I mean. We're not
We're
changing
elevating, so we're not
permeability.
changing the surface area. We're dealing with runoff and higher speed runoff, maybe because of the angle.
And we're not really changing the direction that water is going,
Right.
ultimately.
And we're also not changing the levels of the arsenic in that soil, because the soil in the fields were at levels of anywhere from 50 to 21 parts per billion, I think, right? Or parts per million, was it? And in the back, they're finding it from similar low levels up to 1900. So it's basically the same soil, levels. So we're not changing that and I bring that up because of any percolation that you had mentioned before about are we putting, or somebody did, or are we putting soils there that is going to contaminate this even more? No.
What's the topography going to happen on the playground area if we add 9 feet? And what's that playground area going to be?
This playground area?
Yeah.
Here?
Is that where
That's the leaching field area?
That's being raised
and
already.
that connects, that's about the same level as the fields?
No, it's lower than these fields.
It is lower.
Yeah, and it's lower than, the current school pad too.
Yeah.
But it's higher than it is now.
It's slightly higher, and we're gonna try and raise that as much as we
Right.
can too.
Right.
There's not much, because with a leaching field, we can't put too much cover on it, but we can raise it a little bit. But this is still gonna be a low spot, but it's gonna be flat. It can still be a a playground area, although it's a little far from the school now, but in the future, it can still be a play area. It's level and it's capped.
So, George, you had a question then, Harry?
Well, it's just, you know, if it is in the, some of the work is within the buffer zone, you know, probably would have to go back to Conservation Commission for modifications, change, plus they still have jurisdiction over, under the stormwater bylaw, because, you know, grades are being changed, and so once an engineering plan is done, it's gonna have to go under their review, they're probably gonna hire the same company that did the review for them, so.
Because I know that is the key to emphasize in the end.
Right.
We need the right experts making the right decisions here. We're not looking for solve one problem by creating another. And again, I think there's a certain level of confidence as to what's happened to date in terms of the design. Harry?
Yeah, just two issues. And I heard the term 15,000 cubic feet, cubic yards. And I was just, number one, I don't know if that was covered in the Concom's permit, but there's a soil importation and exportation permit, and I think that might be over the trigger line there. That would have to probably go back to Concom when the other stuff goes back, but they could handle that in paperwork. I'm just wondering, just out of curiosity, in the area that you're laying it there, how high a pile is that?
Well, like we said, it's 8 or 9 feet above what's there now.
About that low field.
About, given that area.
Yeah.
So you're only covering a 10-foot high pile, essentially.
What's the interim pile going to look like before you actually do the
Probably
field?
gonna be 2 piles. There'll probably be 2 piles, because one pile will be reserved for what's going back here.
Sure.
And the second pile will be redistributed, so they may be 2, you know, unequal piles, because more of it's staying here than is going here. So it's gonna be a couple piles. They'll probably be, as we said, in the end, covered with this either tactifier or
Sure.
planted. Be a temptation to ski on or sled on them maybe, but that's what they're going to look like initially. I would imagine that they're not going to grade them flat. They will pile, and it will be higher than that if that's what you're asking, Harry.
Yeah, I'm just
sorry.
trying to get a
In that
measurement
case,
of how
yeah, they may be
15,000
12 or 15 feet high,
Yeah.
given that, you know, you're talking about
Well,
a
it all
mound.
depends on how-
But when it's all graded
Smaller
out,
areas.
it's 8 or 9 feet high.
When you have it in a pile, depending
Yeah.
upon the.
And you have to extend your erosion control.
The radius
Oh,
of the
yeah,
pile.
oh,
all
yeah.
included.
The erosion control will be there, and obviously, George, I think they'd want to set it so that they're, you know, starting at the buffer line and working in, and the pile will be whatever it is. It has to be to avoid that, but that'll be determined. It'll be significantly higher, obviously, as a pile than when it's graded out. I don't have that calculation.
I just thought maybe.
Gotta go back to geometry class and figure that.
Well,
Area of a
depends on the
pyramid.
base, how much area you use it, and
Yeah.
that was basically the question, how much of that area are you planning to use?
Yeah, my sense would be when they,
Know
when they,
how high that pile
when
would
they
be.
bring the loam in, my sense is they will try and get as much of it in place and compact it as much as they can, rather than just leave a pile and have to, move it around again later on. You'd probably wanna bring it in, keep the loam on the side away from the school, because you wanna put the soil there, because that's what's gonna be moved over to the area that obviously, the grade that the existing school is in. So you would place it in the furthest location, you bring it up in layers, compact it as much as you can, and leave the area as flat as you can, and leave enough room for the soil that's gonna go over to fill in where the school is. This way you're not handling it twice. You wanna put it in, try and get it down in place, get it as compacted as you can,
Hydroseeded?
and then move it. Once it's done, get it at that area, hydroseeded, planted, do whatever, get your cap on it. You wanna put your clean material on it, cause it's gonna be capped. And then you can obviously get it.
How many yards does an 18-wheeler hold?
This won't be an 18-wheeler, these will be ukes, these are large ukes.
How much are you called?
Oh, they're probably, I'm gonna guess there's probably 30, 35 yards, yeah.
You're saving a couple hundred trips to the site with trucks to remove it if you didn't put it there.
Well, it's not, it's the cost of disposing it.
No, but
Yeah.
also you've
Yeah.
got
The
300,
transportation.
400
Yeah.
deliveries of trucks.
Yeah.
Less traffic on Elm
Yeah.
Street.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying there's, 300, 400 trucks, big
Yeah.
trucks, so
Yeah.
eliminate that.
Yeah.
Did you receive prices today of how much it would cost? And you just haven't looked at them yet?
Correct.
For,
We've been talking prices with them for the last week. We had discussions last week, and it's all being done in incremental costs. What's it gonna cost to provide the remediation for the workers? What's it gonna cost to
do you have a
dispose?
price for that?
We're working on that right now. We got prices that came in today, so I was leaving, 4 prices came in this afternoon. which we're gonna be going through tomorrow.
I mean, because that's gonna be a huge cost, if you have to cover the work area of 6 inches of that whole site, that's 8 acres of.
Well, it's being done, like I said, it's being done in stages. It's being done, like I said, in certain areas. Some of that area doesn't have to be, because the site guy, when he's working on it, he's gonna be okay to work on that stuff, because his hours people are all covered. So his people are fine, and they obviously, as long as they use their procedures to eliminate dust during the off hours and so forth, the people working in it, they're fine, they're all covered with it, no, as far as the 40-hour training.
Yeah.
It's getting ready for the other trades. So when another trade is ready to come in, you wanna make sure that the roadways and your areas where they're gonna be working are covered. And of course, they're gonna wanna move to get binded down as soon as they can in the spring, which obviously will make it even more substantially covered and more substantially covered with impervious material. So, again, like I said, it's a full-blown plan, which has made it complicated to put together for the contract. And right now, like I said, we're really on the cusp of getting it pulled together. So in the next couple of days, we should be able to present the whole thing and present the whole picture, and hopefully in favorable terms.
Right. Can I just Phil, we're gonna go, just Phil.
I just have one last comment, and the comment is, I guess, to our board as well as with Mike and the other boards that are here, is by what date can we agree upon, and who is going to get a final package of the total costs of what it's going to take in the end state of all this project?
Next couple of days.
No.
But you're not gonna have,
everything.
you're not gonna have the fields, the fences.
I thought you were talking about the scope of this contract.
I need the whole thing, and this is to our boards, because we got your components, we got some of our components, now we need a package, and I need our finance committee to take a look at that, our finance director to look at that, us to look at that. I mean, again, I see this approaching the limit of what our financial situation is, and we've got other things going on in the town over the next 18 months that are substantial, that this will all have a major impact in. And they're not related, they're just out there right now. Well, some of them are heavily related.
So can we look at it as a two-part question, Phil?
Yep.
Can we look at it as the date for the revised Pembroke project, and then the date for when additional field costs are added in there? Because I just I'd rather get one, if we can get one soon, let's get that.
Oh, yeah,
And then the big picture of when everything's in. So I guess let's just look at the revised Pembroke project budget.
There's no plan.
Yeah, there's no one working on the other fields.
Forget
You
those
know
for a
that.
second.
Okay.
Forget those for a second. Just the revised Pembroke project budget.
Next couple of days.
Next couple of days, you think you'll have it with all the special remediation that has to occur, and if you made the assumption, regardless of, if you made the assumption where the dirt was going, all that stuff. So we think in the next couple of days, we'll know, what we voted on was this, we had a bunch of stuff happen, and here's where we are now. We think?
Yeah, and obviously, we're hoping that we could get a vote tonight to utilize that location, so we'd have 2 options, not 4.
Right, okay?
Mr. Chairman?
Hold on, Dave. And then the second one is, so then, to finish off the Pembroke puzzle, was not part of the original scope, but it's now a scope that the town has to deal with, we have to deal with. And maybe we need expert opinion in terms of how long this could take, but again, I'm not looking for numbers or dates that aren't realistic, but do we have a feel for how long it would take to determine what the remediation plan would be and would cost for those additional fields?
I think if you came up with a plan, and if it's as simple as I think it might be, that you're gonna be stripping off the loam and placing it in that particular area, and then moving off any material that's gonna make room for your 2-foot cover on top of it, or whatever it turns out to be, based on whether it's naturally occurring or not. I think it's pretty straightforward to get that put together and get that priced up. Once they come up with a plan, that's gonna be something that can be priced up literally in a few days.
Right.
And so, just to clarify, so we got two competent groups that have 1 foot on the dock here, in terms of, do we want the school committee to drive that, or do we want the school building committee, because they're already working that kind of stuff already? And just so we leave tonight as to who's got the ball, and
Well, it's a different project.
I know.
So
I
just wanna make sure everyone understands that.
Who's best qualified and in the best position to get the right expedient answer. And I don't think it really matters who in the end, because I'm just trying to figure out what are the best way to work it?
I would think that the only people who are qualified to give you that budget number would be the design people.
I'm with you there. I want someone from our town, who on our town
Who's gonna spearhead
owns
it.
the responsibility to get it done. That's what I'm looking for. So it's really the chairman maybe talking to each other, saying, who wants the ball here? Because I'm not saying who's qualified. I'm saying
Building committee to
I would,
just
I
ask.
would probably suggest it, and you can kill me later if you want, Ellie, but I think it should stay with the building committee because we're into it already. We
You had us at yes.
We have
It's
a
all part of
relationship
it.
with these guys. They're under,
Yes.
So-
you know, the contract that we're monitoring.
I'm
so-
good with that. Now, technically, those fields are owned by you, Barbie, and your team, the committee.
Right.
So I just want to, are you okay with that?
Sure,
Or
we can work together.
you can work together on that? Because I just want to make sure that it's like we have a lot of moving pieces that.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. That's what makes the most
Okay,
sense.
so I just want, I don't want, I don't really, I'm not looking to assign it to anywhere, I just want someone to say, okay, this is ours.
Right,
so
no,
that
it
we-
definitely has to be done, and I agree with Phil. We need to have these numbers because it could be a huge project. And I know when I spoke to Carol about it today, when they said, oh, it's $1 million savings, okay, it is, and that's great.
On
But
what?
we still need to look at, okay, well, what is it gonna cost us in the end to
I-
make
I
those fields
think-
playable?
I think Pat's been trying to explain, and I agree with him, about the stages, because first we need to say, yes, you can use that area.
Correct.
And then they can do figures based on that. And then you look at the fields as a whole separate entity. One of the savings will be if we've already determined that we can use the other field for dumping, then everything gets pushed in, and then they just have to price out the capping. So I don't see that as a big deal, and I do think it can be done. Do you have any idea how long it will take, time-wise, a ballpark to clear the new site, and when approximately they would be done putting things in that field, if that's what we do?
About stockpiling in
Yeah.
that
Do you have any
area of the
idea?
lower field?
Hmm.
It'll take the winter time before they move
Yeah,
everything
the
out there
winter,
and get everything ready.
before
It'll
they're
be winter, yeah.
Great.
So it would be at the end of that time then that perhaps the whatever corrections need to take place for the other two fields could be started?
It would be helpful to know whether we're scraping material off and where to put it. Because that would stir into the equation as to how you utilize the site material. So the sooner you know you're gonna be doing something with that, because you may be, if you wanna hold the grades that are there, and you're gonna cap with 2 feet, and there's 6 inches of loam, then you wanna be able to scrape obviously the loam and put it with the loam. You wanna scrape the soil off, put it with the soil. So as you go through and start to manage your material locations, you like to know kind of what's gonna happen. So it would be advantageous to know what was gonna happen with those fields as far as scraping material off. Certainly within the next month, because they can get started by putting material there, and then at some point, if they know they're gonna be scraping and putting other material in that location, then they can make the accommodations and make, work with the logistics of where material is going.
So we have, I guess what I'm getting at is we have a little bit of time to come up with a plan for the other two fields and still take care of getting the new project back on track.
What the contractor will be doing in the meantime is simply driving through it to
Right.
bring the material from the construction site over and dumping it in the repository. And if you took 3 weeks or maybe even a month, you could actually get to a point where he can move that material knowing that this stuff might be coming, and then come up with a plan and a price once whoever's designing the capping arrangement, whether you have the right to, it's advantageous to raise that. If you can actually strip the loam off and live with raising that 1.5 feet, that's one option. If you can't live with raising the grade, you would have to take off the loam and 1.5 feet of material and put that in the repository. That's where the design comes in. What do you do with it? If you can obviously raise the grade after you strip the loam, you're gonna save more money because there's nothing to move.
So if I understand this, we have, to raise to put the fill in the back area, which we're talking about, and raise that field, the benefits are, one, we've got a pretty graded, single grade field for the most part. That's what we're going for, right? You'll be able to provide us with some sort of topographical view of it so we understand what the end result will look like, right? So that's from a qualitative standpoint. From a quantitative standpoint, you said that we're gonna save somewhere around $1 million by putting it there. Makes sense. And then I was just reassured that it'll go through the proper channels from a conservation standpoint, and I have no worries about thinking about groundwater problems. So why wouldn't we do it?
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, David.
So, first question is, did the DEP have to approve us moving that earth over to the other site, the other area?
So the
Yes or no question?
The question was, the DEP have to approve moving and reciting this material?
I don't believe so. Well, we'll check, I don't believe so.
Yeah.
And
They just look over the process and manage the safety and the soil management process.
They're interesting in the,
Okay.
eventually, the end result being everything being counted.
So David, the answer is that they don't believe so, they will confirm, but their primary role at DEP is the process in which the material is handled.
Second question is, I'm back to what is to Phil's point about we shouldn't be worried about stormwater and we have conservation there. You know, how long would it take for I need an expert before you can get my vote to move that dirt anywhere. I need to know what the effect is going to be long term when the project's completed. I'm worried about groundwater. I'm worried about creating another problem that's going to cost us $1 million to fix later. And I just can't take, well, our experts looked at it. No, I need to hear or see an expert come in and tell me what the effect is going to be after, when the project is done, before you can make a decision. I don't think you can make that decision. I don't want to slow the project up. I don't want to incur additional costs. But to get my vote, I need to know what the long-term effect is going to be by changing the topography of that entire section of the property.
If I could, I don't know if this is gonna help much, but I can tell you that during our meeting that we had a week ago, where we had everybody in the room, including the civil and the landscape architect and everybody else, what was curious was, after spending several hours going through a gut-wrenching discussion on how to economize and solve the problem, the individual who came up with the idea of putting that material out back ended up being the civil engineer, who obviously is involved with topography and so forth. And when he came up with the idea, it was open, everybody had a say and everybody participated in how we were gonna save money. But when he came up with that thought, one of the questions was, how does this affect hydrology and how does it affect the topography and drainage? And again, his feeling was it wasn't gonna affect much of anything, and we'd have to check to see if we had to go back through Concom and so forth.
I think you do, yeah.
But from a hydrology standpoint, from a grade standpoint, from a drainage standpoint, curiously, the individual who made the suggestion, who was given much accolade for coming up with the idea to save this plus $1 million, is the one that came up with that suggestion, who would be looking at and designing and be responsible for drainage and hydrology, et cetera, et cetera. So, again, for what it's worth, I just
So
throw
what
it
you're
out.
saying, he's willing to put his license on the line and put it in writing?
I'm sorry?
He's willing to put it in writing and put his license on the line, that, a quick decision and a, what?
Yeah,
That's what design is.
Is there a stamp or?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so David, the answer is these designs, final design and so forth, are stamped and licenses, I don't know if you call it on the line, but that is part of this process, that there is a certification and they are certifying it and they are responsible for it.
We'll have that on hand before they actually move the dirt.
Before we, how does?
You gotta get the design.
Well, you get it permitted.
Well, I think what David might be trying to get at, David, correct me if I'm wrong, I think what you're trying to get at is, I think everybody doesn't want to hold up the project. I think everybody is in that place, and I think people are hearing a lot of words about that it will not do this and it will not do that, and looking for some assurances. When you're talking about getting it stamped and approved, and that really would end up falling into a peer review, that's a different animal, but that's how you get that assurance. I've heard that the LSP would says this is okay to do, but I'm like you, David. I that's all I'm hearing, and I'd like to see that. I'm actually surprised they're not here tonight. Really surprised they're not here tonight. But I think there's some assurances, and to answer your question, Phil, about why not do it, I think the answer to that question, and again, I don't want to hold up this project, but the other side of that coin is, why not to do it is because of the potential for costs that no one's talking about that could be substantial. Concom could review it, and it could go out into left field after that. You don't know. I'm just saying.
It just sounds
I'm
all
just saying.
gloom and doom. I mean,
No,
David,
it's just asking for
No,
information.
I know.
It's just asking
I
to
think
wait,
that,
just wait, wait.
I think that what we're asking for, what these guys are asking for is a vote to allow for the soil to be put there. Take off all the other things, just take off
The concept.
the concept, take off all the other costs that we're gonna hit no matter what. Because those fields have to be redone and capped anyways. There's a whole bunch of, and that soil has to be moved, it's all gonna go down the same road. All they're asking is that we stop it and put it, stockpile it there so that it can be used, so they can be put there and save $1 million, rather than trucking it out of Georgetown. And the soil.
Jeff, I would agree with you 100%. If all of the fill was going back and being used and not changing the layout of that particular piece of the property.
So let me ask you this. So just trying to find a.
You're gonna have to change it anyway.
Find a happy medium for tonight. There is a certain amount of that dirt that is gonna go fill the Pembroke School in. The old
The hole.
Pembroke, the old
Yes.
Pembroke hole.
The hole,
old
yeah.
Pembroke School, right? And I assume that's a significant amount of dirt.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
it's not,
Some way, it's not a
it's not
huge
the
amount.
majority of it.
No, I'm saying majority. I'm talking about getting a yes tonight to begin that process and move that dirt, because we know some of it's gonna stay on site, and storing it back there makes
Maybe I
sense.
can shorten things.
You can't move it to get your designs,
Exactly,
right?
if you vote tonight,
Yeah.
it's just for the concept. Dirt is not gonna move tomorrow, based on your vote tonight.
For you to put
Okay.
a budget together based on that.
Exactly, we just wanna be able to proceed, so as Pat says, we can get the numbers together within this week, with that understanding. Ourselves, I have a stamp, our engineer has a stamp, the landscape architect, the conservation kid, everybody's gonna review this.
Okay.
We're not gonna put forth anything
So
that
that's a
doesn't
good
make engineering
clarification.
sense.
So when does this,
In terms of
so
construction.
if we vote, so let's talk about that, so that's good. So if we vote yes tonight conceptually to do this, why don't you walk us through the assurance and certification process? Because maybe that's the part, maybe I didn't get that either, although I know someone said it, now that someone said it again, it just took me twice to hear it. Let's talk about if we say conceptually we're good with that tonight, what happens next and where do we end up on the assurances? Because that seems to be the major question.
We still need to design it, engineer it, what it's ultimately gonna look like. The concept of stockpiling it there allows the work to proceed while we're doing that. If the engineering should prove, and I don't believe it will, but just to, be open-minded about it, should prove that in the long run it can't go there, it doesn't change the ability to at least move it and handle it and get it, out of the construction zone while we're designing it and getting it reviewed. And we're gonna stay out of the buffer area, George, but we would go back to Conservation Commission just as a courtesy anyways because of stormwater issues in that regard. And so, in that sense, I guess that would probably be the longest item in terms of getting a review time and getting on their agenda, making a submission. So we're talking about a matter of months there, I guess, to get through that.
Let's hope not.
Well, in terms of by the time we get on the agenda and, they review it again just to be.
But in the meantime, you're stockpiling it there, and you're hoping to get everything approved.
Right.
With the intent that the designs have been stamped and certified, and now it's just getting through conservation to make sure that you're just.
And again,
The only risk to that is removing the soil again.
Right.
Correct.
And that would be the point.
Which
If
I
you
would-
move it over there, and then design says, or because of you're changing that area, it has to be moved out. Now you're handling it twice. So what are you really saving?
But what,
Well,
that
you
goes
say
to
You have
my,
the option to move it and stockpile it, or ship it off-site right from the beginning. And until I can see, I get assurances that we're doing the right thing by moving it, I can't vote for moving it.
right, but that goes to my point I just made before. There is a certain portion of the soil that is gonna stay no matter what.
Right. I had asked that
Right.
at the beginning of this whole discussion about
Is there
Very
gonna-
little areas right now
how
under the
much of that's
jurisdiction
going
of
to stay there, and
stockpiling
how
on
much
the
of
site.
that spot over there going to change.
No, so that stockpile, a certain portion is gonna be used.
What I'm saying is they have very little area to stockpile now in the construction zone.
No, what I'm saying is if
Even
we-
the area, even the fill that goes here.
Wait, no,
Some
but-
material is gonna be used where the old school is, yes.
If you stockpile on that lower field.
Oh, yes, some of
right,
it's gonna go here.
There is a
It won't have to
portion
go
where
outside.
time will go by, but regardless of the decision of what you do with that other
Right.
dirt,
Right.
a significant amount, and I don't know what percent, you said it was less, is gonna be used for the school.
That's right.
So you,
That's right.
my point was you could proceed stockpiling there, at least to the point where
It's gonna be used.
it's gonna
for
be
the-
reused.
Right.
And during that process, that gives you time to work out the details if there's any question on
Mm-hmm.
elevating it.
When would they begin to remove?
And we could say we're moving forward with stockpiling there based on all the certifications and stamps and designs and runoff and all that good stuff. And you guys gotta correct us if we're messing you up here, but we could say, and because knowing that a certain portion of that will be reused, no matter what. And then during that time, we could get to that comfortable plan where we could say the drainage and so forth, and then you could just kind of keep continuing with that stockpile there. I get that, I'm posing it as a question and a statement simultaneously,
There's a
so.
little sequencing problem with that. The material that's gonna go over, that's gonna be used in the, where the existing school is, that material, will more than likely, a lot of it's gonna follow the removal of the loam. Normally you strip the loam off, you start moving the loam off, you move the material over, then you get to the undersoil, and you start moving that undersoil off. Some of which, by the way, of the undersoil is gonna be used on the construction site, because there are areas that require, on the construction site, require 7, 8, 10 feet of fill. So for the first 7 or 8 feet, you can use that material right on the construction site, because it's gonna be capped. So they would move the loam off the site, then of course you'd start moving the undersoil. The undersoil would be moved into areas on site where you can actually utilize it. One of the things they're gonna do is they're gonna pump the septic and be able to obviously remove the existing leach field so they can fill it. That's one of the areas where we have most of the fill. So they're gonna try and use as much of that as they can. But you really need to get rid of the loam to be able to move that dirt. And that loam is gonna be moved and stockpiled in that repository area. My only concern would be that you, again, as David mentions, you certainly don't wanna move anything twice, having to move it to a repository and then have to move it off-site. So you wanna get to a point where we get the numbers put together, we have relative assurances, however we get them, from the various individuals that are responsible for this and those that may wanna overview it, before you start doing a lot of stockpiling. The last thing you wanna end up with is moving stuff twice. Now it becomes counterproductive. So, however, we've gotta get there. So, I mean, right now, the sequencing requires that some of that loam starts to get moved before you can attack the soil that's gonna be stockpiled for the existing building, and from a preliminary standpoint, move into construction areas on site. We're gonna end up with adding a cover on top to give you that clean.
When's the earliest they'll be moving soil?
Well, again, like I said, from an idealistic standpoint, if we put together the monitoring arrangement and we put together the contract, and by the end of the week, if they're all set, they'll be ready to start moving dirt next week sometime.
I have a question for Pat. Earlier you said I thought you said it's gonna take most of the winter to move all the dirt.
Dirt, yes.
Does that then preclude our ability to pour the pad?
No, because what'll happen is there's an overlap of activities.
Okay.
First thing the contractor wants to do is he wants to clear the building pad area. He wants to get rid of the loam off that site, which is number one. He wants to get rid of the loam where he's gonna be placing fill in deep areas. Then he's gonna want to start to move the dirt that he can use on site from the area that obviously requires excavation to the area on site where he's gonna be putting the fill in. Then he'll start to prepare that pad, as we said, with his construction excavation, over excavating. He wants to work in that pad area while he continues to move the balance of the dirt in the course of the winter in areas outside the building pad, of which there's quite a bit. He wants to move that all off-site, so that by the end of the winter, he's moved all the loam off-site, he's moved whatever excess fill material he has off-site, and he's got the area pretty well rough graded.
So we'll be able to get back on track and finish in September of 16?
Right now, we have, one of the things we determined last week in the proposal asked him, we want you to finish this job on time. We understand we've lost some time, but we want you to finish on time by working Saturdays, nights, overtime, whatever you've gotta do. His price includes that. His pricing will include that. And his pricing will include all the other issues that may arrive out of this whole issue that we're resolving. So again, like I said, it's gonna be an overlap process, so he can start moving dirt next week. His initial reaction is to go right after the building pad, because as we speak, steel is being detailed. It's probably gonna go into fabrication within the next couple of weeks. So that's the critical path of the job, getting the foundation in, getting the steel up, getting all the trades on board. And they'll be working, like I said, on the periphery areas during the course of the winter to finish off moving the dirt.
Thank you.
I just wrote down a few things here, kind of as a step-by-step. I think I've probably missed half of it, but this is what I'm sort of seeing in my own mind as the steps to get to a point where we know everything. First of all, to get an approval for the concept of getting, using this area as a stockpile area. That would be tonight. By the end of the week, or not even, get the savings that we would make. That is a hard number for how much we'll save by keeping the soil on site versus taking it off. So we're not getting ourselves into a situation where we say, yeah, go ahead, and then all of a sudden it only comes in that we're saving 500 because they know they've got us. So, but they'll give us numbers and be able to do that. Then get assurance from the civil engineer that the soils that we're bringing over to stockpile can absolutely be used as a sub-base for these new fields. And get that assurance so we don't get into a situation where we're stockpiling it and then have to take it off and move it again. So at least we'll be able to know that we can use it there.
And not creating any hydrological problems.
I'm pretty confident, and we should get some assurances from it, but I'm pretty confident that we can make these fields work with drainage and everything. And as far as, like I said before, the soils, the levels of arsenic in these soils are not any different than what's there already. So I feel comfortable that we're not increasing that any and going to cause a problem. Then by next week, so that's all this week, and then by next week you can actually start the excavation and putting the soils there. So we'll know that before they even start stockpiling anything by the end of this week, that yes, we're going to save $1 million+, and yes, we can reuse it, and we won't have to move it twice. And then we have to count on these guys, which I think we can, for a good design and working with Concom and working with everybody else to make sure that the fields are designed and able to be done. That is not going to come until much later because they have to go through the whole process. I was talking to Carl a second ago, and he was saying that he thinks they can get that design done relatively soon. I don't know how long that would be. So the amount of stockpiling that's going on is not everything. It's going to be quite less than everything that they expect to go there. So we always do have, we will get their final say on the design and actually show everybody before all the stockpiling is done. So we'll have some there. But I think that's a good path to take to allow them to get going with the pricing by saying, yes, that's a good possibility. It is allowable to use that field as a stockpile. And I think we can do that with some assurance that it's going to work if we get it from them.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead, Dave.
On that particular issue, can we put in the motion that they only stockpile the amount of material that's going to be reutilized on the site, and not the residual to change the topography? Because that gives us time. We're not going to, between this meeting, this vote tonight, and the next meeting, they would be able to come back and say, we've done all the things that Jeff has suggested. So in our particular vote tonight, can we be specific about how much material is going to be moved to the stockpile?
I think we'd also have to add also the scraping of the top layer, sorry, what's it called, topsoil, is that what you're referring to? So that there is going to be, so Dave, when I asked that question, the key is you can determine that amount or approximately, but there's also going to be topsoil that needs to be scraped off first to get to that material. So I guess the risk is we're taking a chance to save $1 million based on some pretty good professional bets, and we potentially would have some additional cost if it didn't work out to move that topsoil somewhere else. And then the question to you guys would be, is there a reasonable time frame where that soil accumulates where a decision can be made to keep going? You know what I'm saying? Where it's
Well, first of all, none of the topsoil is going to be stocked. Will be reused.
Okay.
For the most part.
So putting it there doesn't
putting it there, if you're not.
It won't be reused as
It won't be
topsoil.
reused as topsoil. So the topsoil that's being stored is it's a final resting place for that particular topsoil.
Okay.
And there's about half of the material is gonna be that topsoil. Maybe 2/3 is gonna be that topsoil. The other 1/3 would be material that's gonna be used in the building area and the adjoining field areas and so forth. So, again, just to give you an idea, about 2/3 is topsoil, and for the most part, most of it is not gonna be reusable.
As topsoil.
As topsoil, because that topsoil would be going in a spot where you'd be needing capping material. It's not suitable for capping.
Right.
So you gotta get rid of it. Now, there are a couple of spots, and that's one of the things we did in the original exercise. Where in this site can we use material? What layers can we put it in? And we exhausted ourselves, and we found a few areas that where some of the material would go. But it's so negligible that I would say assume that none of this topsoil is gonna be reused.
But I think that one of the pieces that goes along with that is the request that the engineers give us assurance that the soils that we put over on this, even from the very beginning, all the loam
Yeah.
that we put over that, can be reused within the soil mix that we will use to fill, fill that
Yes,
lower field.
absolutely.
So to me, that means that we're not gonna have to
Right.
move it a second time.
Yeah.
That it can be reused and worked in
And
so
that
that it's a
repository.
suitable soil.
But here's the question. Here's what's throwing everything up. It's not even the mix. It's that elevated field, will it cause a problem? That is the stopping point right now in terms of Dave's concern, other concern. And the question is, can we start the stockpiling process while we confirm that that will not be an issue? And then in a reasonable amount of time where as we stockpile, we confirm it and we can keep going, assuming we don't have to change plans. And that's why we're asking the experts, is that like crazy, or is some needle that can be thread that makes it work to do that?
Well, to me, it's reasonable on the basis that talking to the engineers, they feel that there is no issue. Again, like I said, if an issue came up and required a little bit of drainage modification as part of the Concom, that isn't fatal. We could live with that.
I don't think anyone's concerned about that, because we're assuming that, hey, ultimately there'll be a final design which will require X,
Yeah.
right? The question is, what if there is no final design and it's impossible to do? And again, so being declared low probability, but the concern on the table. So the question is, can we start the stockpiling process to keep construction going? Come up with a acceptable plan for what this elevated field would look like, work like, function like, somewhere in the shorter versus longer term, and then keep going.
That's exactly
You
what
can
I-
do that,
I'm
but
saying.
you'd need to provide us with what that cost would be if we had to remove it again. So you'd have to help us with that understanding what the risk is, not just from a probability, but the cost of that as well.
If we restrict how much they're going to move in the first place, we wouldn't have to worry about that. If we tell them the vote is to remove only the amount that's going to be reutilized on the site, excluding any changes to that particular area where they're dumping it.
Dave,
That
so,
would be, so that maybe you're going to take out 3/4 of it.
Dave, there's a
That gives us time to make sure that the topography and any of those drainage issues are confirmed it's not going to be a problem. Then they can say, all right, well, then we're going to take that other quarter and put it over there,
All right, so-
or we're trucking it off-site.
Dave, it's
So
not.
That can be specific.
Dave, it doesn't work that way. Dave,
And we won't have to worry about what it costs.
Dave, what they
costs
said.
it anyway.
Dave, it doesn't work that way from what they said, because 2/3 of that topsoil cannot be used to fill back the Pembroke School in the base, and you have to take the topsoil till you get to the good stuff. So it's not. There is a potential chance of some waste if it went south, because there would have to be some topsoil removed in addition to the good fill or whatever you'd call it. So it's not clear cut, but to me, it's a very reasonable chance to take to save this money. It's not irreversible. There would be some cost associated with it, but the upside is huge, and we could do it and have a decision on the appropriateness of this field well before all the soil is moved. So it's almost what you're saying, but there is a slight risk.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay. Yep. How long is it going to take to move all the soil?
They thought
Winter.
most of the winter.
2 to 3
So that
months
gives
before
us
they
time.
move
I mean, they're not going to move Oh, yeah, it's still, they start with the topsoil first.
Two to 3 months. So I mean,
They could start next week, Dave.
A reasonable.
When I eat Oreos, I always eat the middle first. I guess I'm, a little backwards.
do you stockpile your Oreo middles?
Absolutely.
Does
Harry?
that seem like a reasonable request?
What's that?
Is that a reasonable request?
To do what?
To just, if the town agrees that you can start moving soil, and, I don't know, we come up with an amount where there's a stopping point while we make sure that it's usable, that the design will work.
Yeah, well, as I said, the topsoil, which is, I don't know, 13,000 yards, the topsoil material.
Yeah, we know
There is
that.
no reuse.
Right.
So, I mean, you can, like Kyle was saying, I mean, when they start to strip it, there's a certain amount you can probably leave on the construction site without picking it up at this point. But it's gonna be short-lived, because they're gonna wanna move that out of the way, so as they get down, they can start moving the soil into the fill areas. So, it's again, you can start moving the material, and as fast as they can get together and get assurances, that'll obviously minimize any chance of having to handle material twice. There isn't any magic wand where you can answer this explicitly.
Right.
The topsoil has to go. If you start moving topsoil in the repository area, and for some reason it has to go, again, like I said, it means you're gonna handle it twice. So again, like I said, as quickly as we can get assurances, you'd wanna obviously, get that so that in front of you, so that you can be comfortable with that.
So I mean, just to clarify, so there is as we get this certified, there is a potential, so we're trying to save $1 million. There is a potential, if this field were determined impossible, that we would incur some additional costs to move some of the topsoil that cannot be reused. So that is the bet in terms of the potential decision, potential to save this with this risk. The experts are saying relatively small, but we're looking for the next level of design. That's kind of the question. Aaron?
And leading
One
right
assumption in that.
Hold on, Mike.
Leading from what you just said.
Hold on,
If
Dave.
I heard correctly, you're talking about A, B, C, or D, the 4 proposals. We're eliminating 2 of the proposals right now, if the board so chooses to say, yes, go with the stockpile
Correct.
option. And now, my question is, does this preclude at a later date, because it sounded to me like you were doing one slip there, you're doing one change order, and this is it, once you get to that. So, is the town precluded from lowering that pile if after you see that pile, and you do determine, gee, if all the loam's there, all that loam that we can't reuse is sitting there, it's awful high, and, we're gonna bring another 2 feet on it to cap it. That's too high. Are we precluded from lowering that, or is that another slip?
That's a good question. Is there too much soil and too much dirt there that it would create a
Go over a certain amount.
detriment to the fields over there to play on?
Well, we'd have a choice as the final design to say we don't want it any higher, or whatever the decision is.
But there'll be a cost.
As I pointed out, the goal is to
And then they would
try
have
to
to ship the
equalize.
rest of the dirt.
try
No,
to
you do it
equalize the whole
beforehand,
thing.
and then have to ship the rest off like they're gonna do anyway if you don't stock.
Or you just keep spreading it across all of them.
What we talked about that is that you fill up the back, and then if you need to,
Then
there's a
level
big area
everything.
that you can start leveling out
Right.
over the
You can bring all the
front
fields
field too. So you
Yeah,
can
bring everything up to
you
the.
brought that up a
Oh,
foot.
right.
That's a lot of soil.
Fill this up till it's
So-
level here, then any subsequent material you spread equally over everything.
Right.
So it
'Cause
comes
you're gonna
up
have to
equal.
cap
So there's
it
a lot
anyway.
of there's a lot of safety factor there.
Oh, you
But
guys are doing the calculations, so, I mean,
I have
you'll
a
have a
question.
contingency.
I have a question that you just made me think about. The savings on our original contract is about $1 million, maybe a little bit more, due to not taking it off-site, right?
The savings to the increase in cost, yes.
Not our
Not the
original.
original,
No,
not-
to
it
the-
was not on the
Okay.
original.
Reduces
No-
the
no hazards.
increase.
Reduces the increase.
Mr. Chairman, quick
Yeah,
question.
Dave, go ahead.
That's good government. Tom.
That's right.
Dave, go ahead.
You guys, did Carl and, I'm drawing at the block here.
Pat?
Did you guys take a look at, why don't we just get rid of the topsoil and not even have it as reusable? Why don't we just truck it off? What was the cost just to get rid of the topsoil?
$1 million more than what we're gonna propose.
$1 million plus.
It wasn't $1 million just for the topsoil, I thought it was $1 million for all of it.
$1 million, the topsoil is what, estimated
It's most of it.
two-thirds,
It's about
two-thirds
two-thirds.
of
Yeah, it's about
the soil.
two-thirds.
Okay, all right, thank you.
All right, so I think we've discussed this quite a bit, and I think there's some very good points and concerns, but I guess at this point, we're talking about if anyone is willing to do, and actually, let me just, sorry, to clarify the process here. Who actually owns this? I know we've done tri-board and approval, right? Who actually owns this project and has to approve it? Is it all three, or is it really the school committee who owns this project? I always get a little confused on who actually owns the project.
School committee owns the project.
So
They're the authorizing entity.
So no, and I'm not minimizing the vote here. I'm talking about, we're all working together. I'm talking about strictly by the rules. I'm just trying to understand, if the school committee decided to move this dirt, are they well within their means to do that? And is there any control that we have as a town regarding that?
And what,
Well, I believe, first of all, the school committee owns the land, so they have to give, I believe they have to give permission. The town owns it in fee, but the school committee
Is the authority.
controls it and says what can be done on it.
right.
So they have to give permission to put the piles there. But it would be I believe, would be the school committee then that would manage that.
School building committee.
School building committee would manage that process and authorize the payment therefor.
Right, and so the reason I'm just asking is,
What do you need our vote for?
As we go through this, I just want to know meaningful votes and who actually has control of the process. And I'm not talking about this forum is great and getting everybody involved, but I don't like it when it's just assumed that, because I'm trying to understand what actual say we have in this process, and whether there's something that's relevant to our span of control that influences this decision. I'm just on a factual basis.
And where the board comes in, you control the money.
That's the lever I was looking for.
But the budget, the bond itself is controlled by the school committee.
No.
Once we've approved it.
No,
We're,
not in this,
we're approving every expenditure?
you're approving the bonding.
Right.
You're the bonding authority.
Okay, so we're not just doing a lump sum bond, we're going after increases to the bond when we need it. And do you need our approval to do that every time?
Oh, it's one bond, right? One time.
No,
It's multiple.
initially, we're doing bond anticipation notes.
Got that.
Eventually, we're gonna need to, take the full amount, maybe in one, maybe in two lump sums, and pay off all the bands.
So right now, the school committee is, any bills that come in go through the school committee
School
and
building.
the school building committee and are forwarded to the treasurer's office
Yes.
to be paid.
And you through the warrant.
Then go in the warrant.
Approve.
I think that one thing with what you said, Mike, is I think what you said was that the school committee has to give the approval for using the land to stockpile, okay? So
I believe that.
Yeah, and I think that's right. I agree
It's
with it.
outside of the construction
School
project.
building committee manages the project, approves the pay apps and, payment applications and things like that, so I understand all that. What I think we talked about in our committee that I have a question on is when we get things like 2 extra fields or 3 extra fields that are, in a sense, associated with the idea of the project, but we're outside the actual work area, how do we get permission or, permission, who gives us permission or directive to take that on and spend the money for these new fields? How do we get that? And it gets more complicated if it's within our original budget, maybe one question. If it's outside our original budget, that's a whole nother question. But so those are the things that we don't know. If I'm
Well, we do know a little bit, because part of the fees, if there's money there, what was the terminology used? It's part of the incidental.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
Incidental. Right, so we don't know if doing those parts of the fields is considered incidental.
Which we, in your opinion, and in with the attorney's opinion, you said that it was.
Yes.
In the way that the warrant was written. I guess, so the question, if I just from a process standpoint, because this is a good question, right? So if a change order has to come to the actual project itself, it's got to be approved first by the school building committee. The school building committee is going to probably want our opinion on it to make sure that they can accept that change order, because we're the ones who are going to sign the bill whether or not you can pay it or not.
Major change orders.
Right? Yeah, I don't want to see.
Yeah. Just make it clear.
Okay, so any of the things that you feel are we don't have a number on that, but I think that's how.
Yeah.
Well, that's why
we don't
we're
want
here
your.
now. Right.
You guys are, you got enough on your plate, and in terms of the project, and we want you to manage the project. We want the school committee to manage the project. As an oversight board here, we just want to help. I mean, so we don't want to. I don't want to get too deep into everything that you guys are doing.
And I appreciate doing this too. I was literally looking for the logistics, but it really comes down to our signature on the warrant every week, every week.
No surprises.
Is the
Yeah.
driving factor.
Right.
And if we saw something we didn't like there, we could not sign it, technically.
Yeah, we wouldn't want to do that after. We'd want to know up front.
Right.
That's protect you guys too.
Right. So, okay.
Right.
Lucky me.
So, with
Through that short straw, happy
With
times.
that clarification, I will entertain a motion at this point if someone wants to put it forward.
Or do you have to entertain a
think-
motion?
Yeah, I think we all need
We all need to
motions.
entertain a motion, don't we?
Well, question I have is, would we be able to put up a motion that says, within a 7-day period, we get those figures that you were talking about having? We'll put the motion up that it is okay to move it.
You mean the total dollars on the project?
Well, we got to approve that anyhow, so it's not going to happen
I'm
unless we
trying to
sign
figure
that.
out, you know,
It physically will not happen unless we sign that change order.
Okay,
The
so
problem
that
is,
would
too,
not
once you
need to
start
be
this
part?
process, you don't want to really start it, and they're gonna make their pathway and their stations and all that. And, I mean, there's one thing to have a reasonable stopping point, but there's a certain amount of change expense that would go into just a quick start and stop, right? I mean, so, I would just be careful, just because it's construction and they plan and they got big costs and big trucks and everything, that big trucks are cool. But they, because Barbie, I'm with you, I was trying to find that stopping point, but we can't assume they do, because it's not like there's a road already there that's just gonna go and do it. I mean, there's a whole bunch of
Yeah, I
planning
know
that's
it's
go
not
into
gonna
it.
be done next
This,
week.
this
but-
vote tonight is basically approval of the concept, from what I've heard. Is that?
But it is gonna start,
But it's
it
gonna start
will
moving
be.
next week.
No, I know,
essentially, so
but-
it's more than that. That's what I was asking too. So,
So we're looking at approval, we're looking at end of week to get the hard costs of leaving it on site or off site, right?
And assurances
Can it be
from the
used?
engineers.
Yeah, and can it be used for fill in the fields? Next week, start moving soil, design from DRA and the engineers, right? What's the cost, i.e. the risk, if we have to move the soil a second time, if there was a problem? That's really basically what the motion should be, right?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the request to transfer the soil that's on site that needs to be used as part of the remediation to the lower field as proposed in the project plan this evening.
Mr. Chairman,
hold on.
change one word to support, because it's not our vote. It's the school committee's vote. All we're gonna do is vote to support it. We're not approving anything. According to Mike, we don't have the authority. It's the school committee's authority.
What's the MSBA or school committee?
So,
Well, I think it's fine. Just put support in there.
Fine, let's try this again, since no one seconded. Mr. Chair, I move that we support the proposal to move the soil as presented this evening to the lower part of the fields as presented in the project plan.
okay, motion, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. So this is really a selectman vote at this point.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is there any further discussion?
Yes, so we're assuming at our next selectmen meeting, we'll have a full report of all the most of the issues that we had talked about this evening from Carl and Pat.
So that's 2 weeks from now?
Week from Monday?
Yeah,
December
16th.
No, it's been a long night. Don't throw me a curveball like that.
16th.
16th.
The 16th.
It is after 9
Is the second.
Sure, 2 weeks is good.
2 weeks is good.
Because there's no way they'll be able to move all that dirt anyway in 2 weeks' time.
All right, so 2 weeks.
You'd be surprised.
2 weeks. 2 weeks is 2 weeks. They're nodding their heads, Dave. It's a 10-second lag for you, but wait 10 seconds, you'll see them nod their heads.
Assuming we can get a vote from the building
Listen,
committee.
all I get to see is your mugs straight on. I don't even see where they are.
Well, that's the money shot. So,
Repeatedly?
Gary, do you have a question or comment?
Steve, Stu.
I guess just a procedure, I don't know if anybody's got it even on their agendas that we're doing a vote. I remember back in March attending a building committee meeting where they had to take a new vote because it wasn't on their agenda that they voted something to go to the planning board. And then it got said that, gee, that wasn't on the agenda, that's not a legal vote. I don't see anything on our agenda
No,
that we're voting. Do you have anything on your agendas that
I
you-
do new business, Pembroke Elementary School
Right,
project.
to clarify, it wasn't the word.
Okay.
It wasn't the word vote on that piece. It was
Okay.
the fact that it wasn't on the agenda.
Okay.
So this was.
Well, we vote on
specific-
everything on the agenda virtually, so.
Pembroke School Project, new business, okay.
Okay. All right. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Great.
One nay. Abstain. Dave, what'd you? We didn't hear you, buddy. Which one are you going with?
I was with a yes.
Thank you, Dave. All right. So that's 4 yes, 1 no.
Okay, so now the school committee will?
Yep. You gotta make your motion.
Okay. So the chair will entertain a motion to allow the general contractor to stockpile the soil to the lower field at Pembroke,
As discussed.
as discussed, for a long time.
At length.
I second.
Second?
I second.
Any discussion?
I just want to say that, you know, I want to support this, but I'm not going to vote for it, yes. And the reason being, I know too much about site, and there are just so many variables on the table, and I know I'm the only one here that thinks that way, but I just know too much about site and the history of this project with site issues. So that's my discussion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And abstain? Thank you. Okay.
So, can Stu vote?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, then we have a quorum also.
So school's what, 3 to 1?
3 to 1.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, David.
Bob, to your point, I'm with you on that issue, but we still have time to stop things.
Right.
I think
Yeah.
just allowing the supporting of the vote tonight just allows them to begin, but we still have enough time if there are issues to stop the process. So this is a general comment, Rob.
Okay.
Thank you, David.
All right, Ellie, do you want to?
Yeah, I just wanted to phrase it the same as everyone else. So,
So moved.
I'll make a motion. Janet probably already has it. I'll make a motion to allow the general contractor to move the soil to the lower fields.
Second.
Any other discussion?
I'd just like to point out that I've always been in favor of using the fields for a stockpile area. I mean, right in the beginning, I was saying, let's use the field, but I got outvoted.
Here's your chance.
George, payback's a
George,
bitch, my
away.
friend. Payback time here, ring the bell.
Any other
Just
discussion?
a procedural question. So you're making the motion to allow them to do it, but that's really not your jurisdiction. Aren't you recommending that you're recommending approval of? Right, 'cause the same thing as what happened with the
Supported.
Board of Selectmen.
Right.
The only ones that can really vote to approve the moving of it, I think, are the school
Or support.
committee.
I do think the building committee has to, no,
I think we need to vote
I
on
think
it.
the
I mean,
building.
the-
Authorize it.
No,
I
I
think
think
what
the
you're
building,
saying is
no,
like we
I think
should.
you're wrong. I think we have to.
Yeah, you're right.
We're
It's
a rec-
our vote
it's
is
our
to
vote to
direct
the-
Pat to
Right.
do it, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Because normally it come the other way around. We'd
Right.
vote for it.
We probably should have voted first.
Then
actually.
send it upstream.
We need more committees
Okay,
here.
I just,
Right.
I know.
I thought I was following.
As long as we're
the
both
procedural
voting, I
discussion.
think it's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, 5-1, motion carries.
Abstain?
Rob, you voted no.
Were you no or abstain, Rob? Sorry. Okay.
All right,
All right.
so, I know
So-
you've been busy,
Got a lot of work.
So I guess
have no time to slow down.
I guess I would ask is if we could get on the books and a big picture solution here in terms of what the final budget's going to look like, so we could share it with the town, the fields estimates, and
Work on those field
we'll follow up with that.
So is that December 16th, though, are they coming back to your meeting? Is that what you said?
The
December
16th would be
Yes.
definitely for the new field piece of it, and also I think at that point it sounded like you'd have kind of the big picture budget at that point on the 16th.
We're gonna be sending information to Ellie and Michelle, this week, as chairman of the committees, based on what the recommendation is gonna be for a change order for the total solution, and asking that it be voted on as quickly as possible.
Okay.
The contractor will not do anything until we authorize it. He's been pretty flexible. So far, he's been actually doing stuff out there that's part of the program. He hasn't got any authorization other than to keep going, but there's no authorization to pay him any extra money at this point. So we've got to get to a point where we can authorize a change order to get him to move in earnest.
First of all, I'd like to thank everybody's participation tonight and everybody's dedication to this project. I know there's a lot of hours going into it, so I'd like to do a 5-minute recess if we could, so it's about 9:20 to 9:25.
I think we need to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion for the school building committee to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I also would like to make a motion for the school committee meeting to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, thank you, good night.
Thank you,
Thank you very much.
5-minute recess.
All in favor? Rob, you in favor?
He said yes.
Yes? Okay.
We still have a full
review.
Yeah, you'll have it at the next meeting.
Okay.
Okay, welcome back to the Board of Selectmen meeting. Next on our agenda is the Brocklebank Museum CPA grant agreement for Georgetown Historical Society.
Is anyone here to discuss this?
Well, I'm here. Harry was gonna be here, I think, with the CPC to help discuss it.
Hi, Dave, we're
But it
back
should
in
be
session.
all signed and delivered, the agreement. Chris Comiskey for Idaho, and I'm Rich Butler, I'm on the committee, I signed it too. So we should be good to go. The project's completed, and I don't know if you want me up there, but,
Come on up.
Harry thought he was going to be here, I think.
We may have warmed
At any
up.
rate, the project is completed, and except, I believe the building inspector was there and inspected the footings of the rebuilt section of wall. And we're under budget. We've come in, we're at budget. We had a few contingency items, and we had a couple of things that we added that were safety and structural issues that we wanted to address, and we're able to do within the budget. So we're basically 100% complete, and we just have a last look now to sign off
And-
finally.
Okay, thank you. And so, Mike, what's our action required on this?
To approve the grant agreement, and basically what happened, the project got started without a grant agreement. And we're just backtracking to make
This
sure
is the
we,
one, okay.
till we have one.
I got you.
There you go. Actually, payments were made by the town unbeknownst. Mary didn't know there was no grant agreement. And then another bill came in and she said, where's the grant agreement? And we looked for it, there wasn't any. So based on legal counsel, although the law doesn't say you have to have one, the Warren article said there should be one. It said the selectmen will have a grant agreement for this project. So, based on legal opinion, we couldn't and shouldn't do this project without one, because the town meeting expected that there would be one.
So we're closing the loop on the process here.
Yes.
So I will entertain a motion.
Chair, I move that we accept the Community Preservation Act grant agreement for the Georgetown Historical Society incorporated with the town of Georgetown.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, sorry for coming in late.
It's okay. Hold on, I think you're gonna get it.
I'd just like to clarify something. The CPC is of the mind that this is totally unnecessary, completely unnecessary. And the Warren article, in fact, authorized the Board of Selectmen to have a grant agreement.
Can you
But
hear
it
now?
did
Sorry.
not, did not mandate it. This, I believe, and the whole board believes, was a waste of time, a waste of money. Right now, as you stand before signing that, the Brocklebank is owned by the Historical Society. The town is totally and completely protected. It has a deed restriction, a historic deed restriction that was put on it 2 appropriations ago, when we did the ADA and when we did other work on the Brocklebank using CPA funds. This was a waste of time. This was a waste of money. Just want to go on record as saying that. It does nothing but, well, all I can say is this. Compliment and Page was asked if it would be a good idea to have a grant agreement. And if you ask an attorney if you want to give him more work, he's going to tell you, yeah, it's a good idea to give me more work. That's all I'd like to say.
We
The CPA, by the way, has already released, how much? 17? 17.5, something like that, of this grant.
So historically though, any third-party entities, we've always put a grant agreement in place with, in my experience. And I think that's probably the posture on why we did this. Do we need to do it for everyone? Maybe not. Maybe that's something that we need to consider in another conversation at some point. Which ones need grant agreements on and which ones don't? I think this is a CYA document in some respects, that there is a historical footprint for us to look back at, or what that agreement, what we went into an agreement with the Historical Society on. It's done. I see it. Your point's well taken, and I think we need to just determine which agreements with what parties need grant agreements and which don't in the future.
Thank you, but I just want to say, just to reiterate, when the warrant articles come out, the wording does not mandate that you have a grant agreement. Nowhere in chapter 44B is it mandated that you have it. This is something that's come down from legal counsel, and it's just wording that authorizes you to do it. In much the same way that when we accept the streets in town, where you're authorized to take them by eminent domain, but you never do. You get an in fee. Just to be clear on that, because there are other warrant articles out there that are worded identically, and they're for $7,500. I can think of the one for the fire department. You know what? I don't know how much that cost you to have that written up, but that $7,500 never entailed it, just as the $52,000 never entailed the cost of that.
I think when we have an opportunity in one of our executive sessions with Copeland and Page, this is something we need to discuss. What does this do for protection or not protection? Do we even need it?
It does not.
Okay.
Could I add one just minimal point of view from the Historical Society's point of view? Just that we knew that we had two restrictive agreements previous to this one, and we just, I guess we thought it was too good to be true that the process, and bureaucratic process, had been so streamlined that there was no grant agreement. But we're perfectly happy to have one when we need to.
Mr. Chairman.
So it's not an issue with us as far as we go.
Absolutely.
It's a cost issue for the town more
We're just
than anything.
trying to move the money there as quickly as possible.
There's no relationship between the grant agreement and the historic preservation agreement. They're two separate items. And we're not redoing a third or a second historic restriction.
No.
Because the other one is good for 26 more years.
Yeah.
Right.
We're not doing that. We didn't spend
Right.
any money doing it.
Right.
This is the same grant agreement that was signed the last time.
Okay.
So there was very little. When I get the bill, I'll share it with you, Harry.
I don't wanna share it.
If it costs me, if it costs $100, I'll be surprised.
Okay. I'd be surprised too.
Okay. But I will also, okay.
And I would not be doing my job as the finance director without having one. I would be derelict in my duties.
Absolutely, absolutely. You got the opinion, you're following it, you're the finance director.
So I'll just add that we're very grateful to both the CPC and all
I'm
of
in the
you
middle of
for
this, don't worry about it.
backing the Historical Society with this grant.
I'd like at some point when we meet with Copeland just to talk about these.
Yeah,
I
just
wanna-
clarify that.
And just to clarify, the very first grant
Chairman.
agreement
Yeah,
required
Dave.
the restriction. That's why you have a grant agreement, so that you protect the town. That first grant agreement, part of the terms and conditions of it were that the Historical Society will place a historic restriction on it, recorded at the Registry of Deeds. Good for 30 years, as Mike said, now 26, something like that. Okay, that's the protection that a grant agreement affords you. Since it was already done, the CPC just started paying the bills as they came in, as reimbursements. Just so we're all clear on how everything works.
Dave, you have something?
Yeah, well, my point to Harry is if you don't like the grant agreements, don't put them in the warrant article.
We usually don't, Dave. They're added in by KMP.
Yeah. Well, you know, if they're not, they're there for a reason, Harry. Okay, and I feel like you're kind of, beating up Mike a little bit for doing his job.
Oh, no, he's doing his job, and he's,
Again,
No,
we want to
no.
make sure that the things are done right. If you don't like the grant agreements, then see what you can do to get them out of the actual warrant. If they're not really necessary, they're not required.
Again, this strikes me as a contract with certain requirements, and whether those are led somewhere else, that's fine, but, and again, this is a friendly, positive relationship situation, but, it does seem to give us some recourse if things did not go well.
And a deed restriction in itself is not total protection, Harry, and you know that as well as I do.
Okay, so, motion and a, hi Gary, go ahead, sorry.
Discussion.
I didn't see your hand there before.
Are we gonna go into, right after this, perhaps, since they're here, it's been a long meeting, the CPC review, approval of vendor bills, that's also
Number
on,
7.
on number 7?
I will definitely do that.
Okay. Now, to the grant agreement. On page 4 of this, in the first section, I guess it would be 10. The grantee shall use all such sums only for the purpose of performing the work as described in the contract documents. Who has those contract documents?
I got it.
You have them, Mike?
You have, okay.
The
They were-
contract document?
No, I don't know.
Delivered. Should have been emailed.
I'm not sure we do.
Okay, now
They were
back on the
distributed.
first page, and perhaps CP, the third whereas. And with the, second last word in that one.
Which paragraph we're on, sorry?
It's the third whereas.
Looking
The
at proposal?
grantee submitted, yeah, as set
first
forth
page.
fully in the proposal.
The proposal we have, definitely.
CPC has a
CPC
proposal.
proposal was clearly, yes, that
You
we
have this
have.
proposal, Mike?
But the contract we don't.
No.
Where am I supposed? Well, then I wanna go on to page 2, I'm leading up to something, okay? Cause I know that we're getting down later into another subject after this. On, section 3 subsection B, I guess, where the town is, putting down who's the primary manager. And we've got Mike down as the primary Georgetown administrative and then we've got the alternate down as the CPC. And I feel that that needs to be reversed. Because I think the CPC knows what's going on more than Mike. I think that we're trying to micromanage the CPC. I think they've done a good job over the years.
I can tell you,
Well, so before we go off the topic there, because we are gonna talk about the CPC decision process, so specific to this, I guess, are you presenting any barriers as to why it shouldn't move forward, or?
I am presenting that let's say I'm making a motion that under section 3 subsection B, that we change the primary and the alternative. That your Georgetown administrator, town administrator be the alternative, and that the community preservation committee be the primary.
Has there been a recommendation from the CPC to ask for that?
no, there has not.
This is
The
our doc.
grant agreement, Mr. Chairman, is looking for a person, a contact person, not a contact board. I think the reason they have this is so that there's one person, in terms of distributing or making sure that the money is being distributed. I don't think you can name a board. The grant agreement is looking for a particular person, no?
They've got him down as an alternate,
Well, they have a
David.
board, the alternate is a board, and the primary is a person.
I can tell you
Well,
that.
shouldn't that alternate be the chairman of the CPC?
The last two, a valid point, but if precedence is anything, the last 2 grant agreements were identical to that. That's,
Okay, so CPC has no problem with it, the way it's presented?
I haven't taken a vote of the board in any way, Dave, to answer your question, but I can tell you, in the last 2 grant agreements, CPC didn't have an issue with it. The town administrator is the ideal contact person, because they're usually the ones that deal with the contracts and the bid process.
And
Remember-
the board is signing the agreement. I am your representative.
Right.
So just to clarify though, Gary had a motion on the table, so I just wanna see that through. Is there a second for that motion?
Yeah, I had a motion. What was Gary's motion?
To amend the contract for the
3B.
grants.
Switch the
Oh,
content.
oh,
3B.
yeah, yeah.
I'll get back to yours.
Oh, gotcha. I'll second it for any further discussion. My question was directed to Harry. If the CPC hasn't requested this, and it hasn't been a problem in the past, I wouldn't care to even bother changing it. I haven't.
So we got a motion and a second discussion. I would say too, for the purposes of this contract, it's already been done. It's based on precedent. I do think that the discussion of how that could change is part of our next discussion in terms of the approval
What
process.
Phil was talking about earlier. That we'll sit down with Copeland and Page on.
No, how things are approved and or just the general CPC process that we're gonna talk about with the next follow-up letter. Cause that could tie into who the primary contact is.
What I am looking at is making sure that the work gets done properly. I'm on the Community Preservation Committee right now, you put me there. I've been to many meetings in the past, and I've seen a board that works well to look over the things and make sure things get done right. And, they have, as I'd mentioned earlier, they're the ones with the proposal. I mean, do we even know what work was being done? As a board or as a town administrator?
The building inspector inspected the job
Yes.
twice and said it was done properly. I don't have the ability to tell if it's done properly. I don't know how a CPC could tell it's done properly by sitting there looking at bills.
Then
That's why the building, that's why it says the building inspector will tell us if it's done properly.
I agree with that. I have that in here, and it did run in my mind. Perhaps he should then be the one doing it for the town, but perhaps that's out of the respect of his job. That was another question that I had, but.
All right, well,
Let's,
motion and a second.
yeah, let's vote on that.
All those in favor of, changing
Amending.
What's that?
Amending.
Amending the grant to change the primary and alternate contacts. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, you guys are getting good at it.
Mr.
All right.
Chairman, can I just say something?
Oh, hold on. I wanna go back to, I just wanna clarify where we are in the process. Now there is an amendment, there was a proposal on the table.
A motion to approve.
Motion, thank you, with a second. There was a second, correct, Janet? It was a little while ago. You did, right? To approve the grant. So, unless there's a burning discussion point on that, I would like to take a vote, but go ahead, Gary.
One more thing then, on this, because Mike had told me earlier that they felt that this could be taken forward, used for others. Okay, now, typically on this type of thing, you've got a grantee and a grantor. I'm not a legal guy, but I've seen these things before. On section 3, it mentions contracts for grantee and grantor. But nowhere on the first page do I see anything about a grantor. Stating who the grantor is. And it doesn't make any reference to it in any of the subsections other than that section 3, contracts for grantee and grantor.
I think in the spirit of the agreement, it's implied that the town is the grantor. When it
Oh, I
says,
agree,
"Now,
but-
Therefore, the town and the grantee agree as follows." I think in a legal court.
Look at the first page,
First
paragraph.
sentence.
It says who the grantee is.
Yes, doesn't say who the grantor is,
Well,
though.
it says the grant agreement is made between these two parties.
Yes.
And it
So
says
there's
mailing
not-
address of the grantee, which is the Historical Commission. Is that not box 376 in Georgetown?
No, I get you. You're looking for the dot in the I and cross the T to name Georgetown as the grantor.
I
got it.
do
I got
sometimes.
I got you on that. I think that all of this it's implied, it's in the spirit of the agreement, which is more than the letter of the law here. Now therefore, the town and the grantee agree as follows, covers that, in my opinion, clearly.
I agree with you, Phil. I just hope that in the future perhaps we can
Yep, I got you.
clean things up. I do look at those things.
When we talk to Copeland, we'll put that in every day.
It will be.
No doubt. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed, good, 5 ayes.
Okay.
Just with respect to that, no, I don't, Mike,
Thank you very much.
you're informing me of
Thank
something
you
that
all.
that I
Hey.
wasn't aware, that
Good
the
night, yeah.
building inspector has, what is it, said that it's substantially
Yeah,
complete?
substantially complete. I
He's
believe.
You've got that?
done, that the work has been done properly.
Well, if the term is substantially complete,
Well,
and
he
we
said it-
need that to release
He said it
the
was
second,
complete.
It's substantially
great.
complete.
Actually-
Just had to have that for the record, so that the monies can be released,
Yeah,
all
I
of it can be
wanna do
released
the
now,
turf thing next, and just
Okay,
see.
thanks.
tomorrow night.
We have people waiting
Okay.
here for that too. I don't know if that's gonna be an issue or not, but.
We've
I
worked with them
I
before.
thought they were here for this, but.
Well, what order are we in here for this thing? All right, let's move in the order we have it here real quickly. So bond for approval, turf field, and conservation restriction. Oh, what's this about? So Mike, what is this?
What we have is a bond anticipation note for the board to sign. It will authorize the town to borrow up to $800,000 over the next year. But right now, we're only looking, well, actually, the total, I'm sorry, the total amount is $1,131,067, of which we're only going to be using $331,037, $331,037 with $800,000 remaining. This 331,037, 131,037 is going to the
Conservation.
conservation restriction, and the balance is gonna be used to pay for the design work for the turf field. And the reserve $800,000 is to get us through the winter for the school bond, for the school project. So we don't have a cash flow issue. We're gonna be spending at the rate of $300,000 to $400,000 over the next several months on the school project. We've only received one bill. Luckily, the November bill isn't gonna be very high because it didn't work. But we spent almost I think we spent $400,000 in mobilization costs just to get the project started in October. And around March, when the real construction starts taking place, we're gonna be spending upwards of $1 million a month. So, we'll probably make the decision at that point in time whether to take the whole 46 million or do it in lump sums. Depends on what our advisors tell us they think the interest rates are gonna do. This interest rate is minimal, it's 0.6%.
Free money.
It's one year, it's very, it is going up a little bit. The last time we had a ban, I think the winning bid was 0.45.
Right.
So it's creeping up a little, and but you know, the longer term bonds are still in the 4 to 5% range. They're not moving right now. It's the short term rates that are changing.
Okay. And so for us tonight, what are you looking for?
I just
then?
have, I need you to sign the treasurer's record, authorizing the treasurer and a certificate for tax exempt status. And there's two tax exempt status notes, and the ban itself for $331,067.
So is there a vote required at this point, or just signatures?
Well, you have not voted in the past, but I felt it important to inform the board what was gonna be
Okay.
going on. So no, you don't need a vote, but you need to sign all the documents.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Hi, Dave, yes?
so Mike, I think you may have confused, well, you confused me, but I think what you're talking about is our global cash flow. This 331,000 is earmarked specifically for the field turf for the high school.
No, 131 is for the conservation restriction.
For
At Pembroke?
No, for
Wheelerbrook.
Wheelerbrook Farm.
Well, okay, so I don't know how you mix this in with the 46 million. So I know you were talking about global cash flow. You're worried about your global cash flow. I don't want people out. This has nothing to do with the school. I just don't want the public to think that the 331, any of this money is going towards the school. You were talking about cash is going to get tight because you're going to have some advances for the school project, right? I mean, I don't want to confuse.
That's what the remaining 800,000 of this authorization will be used for.
The turf field.
Okay, and then we'll wrap it all into specific bond when we get there.
So
Yes.
I think I'm just confused because I have $800,000 here under the line item for turf field. I guess 200,000 of it expected to be used,
For turf.
applied for out of this
For the design work.
for the design work,
Gotcha.
right? And then there's another $131,000 for the conservation restriction at Wheelerbrook Farm. So that's where you need the 331,037
067.
or 067.
37, isn't it?
Well,
There's a problem on that. There's a typo. There's $30 off.
yeah,
But
we can fix
on
that.
the
We can,
sheet. So, but the 800,000 is not. You haven't advanced that yet. That's a line that's just waiting to be advanced, right?
Yes.
And you'll use that. You'll come back to us when you need that for cash flow between now and the next couple of months.
right.
Yes.
Right. And the cash flow is going to be impacted on the other project at school. That's why we need to get this done. I got you. Okay.
There you go.
All right.
Okay.
You were
So-
a little bit.
For
I never
clarification.
heard Wheelerbrook Farm. That's what the
Yeah,
that's what
That's
they
what the conservation restriction.
right. But we do more conservation restrictions around here than.
Yeah.
Okay, so that'll go around for signatures. Moving on. We'll go to the CPC review and approval of vendor bills. Come on up, guys. Just give the audience at home a quick identification, although I'm sure they know and love you all.
Oh. Paul Nelson, CPC representative from the Affordable Housing Task Force. James Domeno, the chair of the Park and Rec Commission, also a CPC representative. I'm Harry Locatinia, chair of the CPC, the Community Preservation Committee. I'm the planning board representative.
Okay.
It's nice to see you, gentlemen.
Thanks for coming in.
You must like us.
Just love us to make us hang around.
We should have had breakfast bought in.
Yes, we should have.
So,
Mr. Bacon.
Mike, maybe we talked about, maybe you could frame the process issue we're trying to clarify here?
What do we want to achieve tonight? We just want to get this a discussion on the table to start the discussion about the bill process from CPC?
Well,
Number 21.
one of the recommendations from the financial management review by DOR, recommendation number 21, was that the CPC's role in approving expenditures by other departments is not founded in statute or, and puts an extra layer of bureaucracy on a payment procedure that already exists, and in my experience, only serves to, not only serves, but it serves to delay the payment of the bills by at least 30 days, and sometimes much longer. Now, sometimes the delays are compounded. The most notable I can think of is, it seems like these little tiny bills from the Conservation Commission, due to, especially in the summertime, due to lack of quorums, just float around all summer and don't get paid, because they equally have a problem of no quorums, the CPC too, so one compounds the other.
Okay.
Can I read this just so we know exactly to the community what the recommendation is from? So it says in the actual financial management review, verbatim, there are limits to invoice approval requirements or responsibilities in the instance of capital projects. In the instance of a school construction project, the school department does not approve invoices. That responsibility falls to the school building committee. While the community preservation committee approves its bills for administrative expenditures, it has no role in the approval of expenditures from funds the CPC recommends and town meeting approves for projects. That responsibility falls to the department or board with spending authority as indicated in the article approved by Town Hall. The CPC would be prudent to track the funds received, recommendations to town meeting on their use, and to monitor available CPC balances, but it is not the CPC's role to approve expenditures by other departments. End quote.
Okay.
I don't know why we're here.
The question on quorum, that was conservation, we've always had a quorum in CPC.
That's
So-
not true.
Joe, we missed one last year.
We missed one last
And
year.
I think I was on the Concom for a number of years. The reason these bills get aggregated there is that it isn't a quorum issue. It's that they come in from mostly over,
Campton?
yes, in little pieces. And Steve just hangs on to them and brings them to a meeting. So it's not that they can't get signed. It's that they aren't even put together as a package necessarily right away.
Well, I think the bigger issue is, regardless of that piece, is what is the process once CPC project is approved by the town? That's the bigger issue in terms of what's the right process. And right now, as precedent has been, as it has been, bills have come to you guys, invoices have come to you guys, right?
They come to us after they go to the board or committee or boards that deal with it.
Right. And so DOR's recommendation is that's an unnecessary step in the process and slows it down, doesn't add value.
Add value.
Right there.
That's incorrect, because
Can we make
it's,
this a quick
No, I'm
meeting?
sorry.
sure, no,
possibly?
I'm saying, it's,
Can we just
I'm
make-
saying, that's what they're saying, so now,
okay.
What's your point of
This
view?
will be a quick question, yes or no, and this could be a quick meeting. Are you guys comfortable with their recommendation?
No.
No.
Okay, I was hoping it was gonna be a quick meeting.
Can I read something from the minutes? Because Gary brought this to us a couple of meetings ago. He gave a package of all the stuff, and there was an email with a town council opinion from 2008, which we've never seen before. I don't know where it came from, but we never saw it. At any rate, the CPC didn't discuss it at the meeting he brought it to, but we discussed it at the last one, and it's right in the minutes. These are online, so everything's transparent. And the minutes even show exactly what we do, because we track those bills in the minutes. That's what we have to do, but I can get to that later. Just to let you know, this was brought under attention by the committee. Gary Fowler relates to the CPC that there's been a discussion by the Board of Selectmen regarding the CPC's authorization of bills that are paid from CPA appropriations. He relates a town council opinion from 2008 that notes there are several CPC communities in the Commonwealth that similarly approve all authorizations to release CPA funds for individual bill payments. It's right in the opinion. CPC discusses the process and is in agreement that the practice for the last decade has been a good one and has averted many misappropriations of CPA funding. The oversight that the process provides is necessary in order to achieve the mandate of the CP Act, wherein the CP committees are required to approve all of their actions at public meetings and are required to keep accurate records of the spending. CPC members agree that this process is a good one and is necessary to ensure the proper spending of the town meeting CPA appropriations. I actually had a brief discussion today with Community Preservation Institute. Stuart Senior, as the town council opinion said, and I don't know if you have it in front of you, it's the one from 2008. Right in it, it says that several communities do, in fact, do it this way. I spoke to the Community Preservation Institute, Stuart Senior, he's the director of it. He said that most of them do. As a matter of fact, the closest one is Boxford. They do the overview. This is something that the unusual part is, and I certainly respect the Department of Revenue, and I respect Lauren Goldberg from Copeland and Page when they point out, when she pointed out back in 2008, where did she say it? I am aware, it's from Lauren Goldberg, I don't know if you have that.
Page 2.
It's second from the bottom paragraph.
Yep.
I am aware
Different on the one we have today.
that in some communities, the CPA stays involved with the public and private CPA projects as they move forward. For example, in some towns, the CPC is authorized by town meeting to enter into grant agreements with private parties relative to the expenditure of CPA funds, or for CPA, or to monitor such private CPA funds projects through the filing of private entity of progress. In such towns, with regard to municipal projects, the CPC coordinates the project as it's undertaken, acting as a building committee of sorts. Let me be clear about this. If you get legal opinion, there is nothing that says that the CP committees have to do this. There is nothing that says that they don't have to do this. The hard part is when you read the Community Preservation Act itself, one of the things you run into is a section, and this is why we always started doing it. We followed the Boxford example. Remember, we were one of the first communities that ever actually accepted this. And the Boxford example, and led us, because that's really where it all started. What we do here is we follow section 13, okay, of the Community Preservation, of chapter 44B. Section 13 isn't mentioned in the warrant, in the opinion from town council, but then again, I don't know the question that was asked of town council when that opinion was issued. I don't think we ever know. We don't see that. But basically it says, section 13, exactly it says, Community Preservation Committee shall, and they use the word shall in the act, keep a full and accurate account of all its actions, including its recommendations and the actions taken on them, and records of all appropriation and expenditures made from the Community Preservation Fund. Community Preservation should also keep records of real property interests, disposed, acquired, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And those records and accounts shall be public records.
But that's very different than the approval process, right? There's no approval in there, and so.
I would ask you, how do you do that
Here's
if
the
you're
fundamental
outside
issue.
of the approval process? See, this was a
You just
mechanical
receive-
problem.
You just receive the record, just like an accountant keeps track of an invoice, right? It's the same. How does accounting do it if they're not
You have to
approving?
keep the money separate. These monies can't be commingled in any way. And the only way to ensure that is to show that is to have the CPC look at them and have them prior to the fact.
So here's the ultimate problem, though.
Okay.
There's no requirement to submit to you now. So let's just forget about whether it should or not.
I understand
Right
that.
now, anyone who receives the grant can send it directly to town hall, correct?
Mary?
To Mary, and have it paid. Is that a true statement?
if there's a grant agreement.
If there's a grant agreement. So in other words, let's not look at it as just, is it a good idea? Right now, it's not a, what do you call it, legal process where it's unenforceable from your perspective in terms of if someone just took it and sent their invoices and never sent them to you. That's the current written.
She just won't give him any more money.
Yeah, it would stop at Mary, and that was why when you sent the invitation and the email, and I had asked if Mary was gonna be here tonight, because I really don't think you guys wanna be making a decision like this tonight without the town accountant's input.
Well, I know, so.
What we do is we create that warrant sheet, that sign-off sheet. We create that when the bills come in from various
We make sure it's the
boards.
right appropriation. I have 3 or 4 appropriations, so the bill is, I could say I got extra money in this appropriation, let me see if I can get it through. The board makes sure that that doesn't happen. So if I've got a ball field and I've got a playground going and I've got East Main Street, I say, yeah, I'm running out of money on the playground, I wanna throw another 20,000 in. I could send it to Mary, and if she paid it, it would get done, but it's not the intention of this group screens it and says, that appropriation goes to that bill goes to that appropriation, and it's going to Mary that way. So it makes sure that the right payments go to the right appropriation given by the town.
It's a tracking process. One of the things that we have to have is project management, and you really don't. When you give somebody a big chunk of money, they can, like you say, literally do anything they want with it. If there's no process for seeing how the money's being spent, and whether there's even any progress being made, you don't even know if you're gonna get anything for your money. And that's not good. And I think that's, and
Well,
we're
that's
all
part of
from,
the grant agreement, right? Why we would wanna do as part of that. in
Stepping
terms of
away
what
from the grant agreement, the grant agreements are a very small number of the appropriations
Yeah.
we make. The majority of what we make, we give to arms of town government. And frequently.
With no grant agreement.
With no grant agreement at all.
Right.
And frequently what happens is we're giving it to 2. Sometimes it's a historical commission in conjunction with the highway department.
Yeah, it could be a split.
Do we require on a purchase order, a purchase order number and an invoice to be applied to a specific purchase order?
We don't have purchase orders,
We don't even have purchase orders.
but we have accounts that are assigned for the expenditure. And you fill out a form and attach the bills to it.
Okay.
And Mary pays them from that form and with the account numbers on it.
Which would be the same as a purchase order,
Yeah,
basically.
it's close enough. If any of these projects, internal projects, require procurement, that all has to go through me as the chief procurement officer. And with the assistance of, we have set contracts now developed and by K&P, and I just attach, depending upon which law it's being purchased under, which procurement laws, I have a different type of contract with a back end and a front end. And so I'm the one responsible when the money goes to a department. It goes through me. And I set it up and make sure the contract is there. I have to keep the records for 7 years and make sure that the bills get paid and the project gets closed out. Having the bill go to them is, as I said, redundant, superfluous. It just puts an extra step that's being taken care of in the legal and required method. You can pick and choose any sentences out of these letters, but the bottom line is the final line, the final 2 lines. The town administrator and the Board of Selectmen remain the only entities authorized to expend CPA funds, requiring the procurement or award of a contract and/or the negotiation and execution of a grant agreement.
But that's not really what
It's a
we're
contract
talking
and a
about.
grant
yeah.
agreement. You
That's
saw
what
that
I'm
earlier tonight.
talking about.
But if you look at it, we have like some of the money goes out and there's a sundown clause on it. So it actually gets pulled back if the money doesn't get spent or spent properly after a certain amount of time. Do you account for things like that?
And when things are like maintenance, when something comes in that's a maintenance expense, it's not allowed under CPC, that we deem as, for instance, an extra set of flags 3 years from now or something like that. So you're not looking at the CPC, legitimate uses of CPC funds as that warrant article is written. I mean, for contracts over 25,000, there's no doubt, and the grant agreements, there's no doubt you're the legal authority. But how you gonna sign a lumber bill for $88 and say that's a legitimate use of that fund because that is not a maintenance, that is that's going to a new structure or a new facility?
Yeah.
I mean, if you wanna chase that around, and, I mean, we make sure that whatever's done on the warrant article is a legal use. And it gets involved, sometimes it gets kicked back, there's not enough explanation. You know, you said you.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Dave.
My question, I have a couple of questions. One, I think we can make a decision on this because this last time at least the way I understand it, the finance director was in charge of the town accountant. So I think we can make a decision without the town accountant present. That's number one. Number two is, why does it have to be the entire CPC board? Why can't it be one person that passes so that we don't have to wait for a quorum? Where you don't have to have the whole board there to take a vote on these bills. Why can't it be one person from the CPC that's headmanning up a particular project? To Jim's point, it's lumber for a particular park bench for
Because there's no authority for it
Parks and Rec
now.
Department.
Doesn't mean
Why
anything.
can't
That's the
there be
problem.
one person from CPC that heads that up and then just passes the bill along? This way you don't have to wait for a full quorum and a full vote.
Right. So the fundamental problem though is that. So let's just go. Let me
There's
test
nothing
the process.
statutorily right
Right.
now
Requiring
dictating that you need to do
oversight.
that. So
Right.
technically, if someone went directly to the town accountant, they would be statutorily process-driven the right way of doing what they need to do, because we don't have anything that statutorily requires them to do so.
Right.
Right, but is it a
Right.
good process that you've got right now, or does it have holes in it? If the money's going out, like there's some projects that the progress is almost nil and they were spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, don't you think somebody should be looking at that?
Do we have that? I guess so. These are real examples that we're
That's
Yeah,
what our town
yeah.
procurement officer
East
is
Maine.
for. Mike, isn't this
Chairman, I didn't have my question answered by CPC.
To answer the question, Mr. Chairman, we've, a single board, to my knowledge, can't do that. A single person on the board can't authorize it.
They're not authorizing. They're clarifying whether it's.
Remember,
Right.
the law states you don't have to authorize the bill. What I'm saying is, can't there be a point person for each project on CPC that works with the individual entity? For instance, you got the historical commission. Can't there be one person from CPC that's kind of work overseeing that project, and just the bills? They take a look at the bills, and then it goes to the town accountant as a second set of eyes. Why do you have to have the full board? That's my question.
Right.
This was the process we always brought in because in the very beginning, there was so very little oversight. What happened was essentially you didn't have those POs. You didn't have the PO. You didn't have all those, the accounts. You basically had 4 accounts: open space, community housing, what's the other one? Historical and undesignated.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, when this first came in, the town accountant was just sort of getting a bill, reaching into any one of those pockets, pulling it out, and finally, about 4 years after that, the FinCom's member Robert O'Malley and I and Mary McEnemy sat down and did forensic accounting all the way back, brought all the accounts the right way that they were supposed to be, and this is what we came up with to prevent things like that from happening. I can't tell you, and I'm not gonna air dirty laundry. Concom messes up, Camp Den, Park and Rec messes up, people mess up. And the bottom line is, the real end bottom line is that when those bills go in, they go to Mary. before Mary actually has the sign off, you guys sign them off in your warrant. Now, I don't know how many hundreds of bills you signed off on in the last warrant, but it's one thing to go like this, but you're not giving them the oversight and the critical view that those bills need. It's a lot of money here. CPA account has over 3 million now. You're gonna be getting another million once the bond for the turf comes in. That'll be 4 million. It's a lot of money there.
Would you
If you don't
guys-
want oversight, all I ask is that this board makes a motion, a second, and a vote to remove any oversight that we have.
Well,
That's
one,
that's all I ask.
First of all, I have the utmost confidence in the oversight of our chief procurement office, the treasury, the accountants, and our finance, as well as us. So that's not the issue. The issue is, for me, it's more of a process, a delay of process, extra work involved, redundancy. I mean, I get your point, and I don't want to kill, something completely that's got some merit to it. And I think Dave is bringing up a very good compromise to at least consider and start with and see if that works out. If we could just get a point person for each major project, maybe over a certain amount of money, and have you guys just yay or nay, this gets paid, this is fits within the scope of the CPA Act and the warrant article that was written.
I don't think you have any more authorization to do that than what you're saying. We have no authorization.
That's what we do right
It's not
now.
authorization, it's just a
It's
double check.
helping the
It says-
accounting process.
So we had people do that. We had one person on the.
Oh, it has to be done for payroll.
So what
It's
happens
immediately
now
done
is,
for payroll.
I got a meeting tonight, I got a meeting tomorrow, I got a meeting Wednesday, I got a meeting Thursday. I'll get called at 9, 10, 11, if someone wants me to sign a bill after all those meetings because they want a $5 bill. We handle all those bills every 2 weeks, and we've always had a quorum.
Again, over a certain amount of money, okay,
So I call them, I look at that bill, and
It's 80% you don't need to look at, it's the 20% that you do, and that's what I'm
Okay.
saying, is maybe it's just, and there's certain parameters or certain projects, you guys can kind of define that scope a little bit, on what you wanna say, these are the projects I want to have someone oversee, and work with procurement to make sure that it gets paid, it's the right bucket to be paid in, and which ones you don't care about, because they're so low dollar items.
That's true, but the big ones that
Sorry,
come
we care
through.
about all of them.
I mean,
And we have a
If it costs
fiduciary
us $50 to
responsibility.
process a $5 bill, I care about the other way.
Well,
But
unfortunately,
we're
we have
free,
to do
we're
it a certain way.
volunteers.
Yeah,
It doesn't cost you a nickel.
No, our town, it costs money in town hall, though, to process that, right?
Right, but they're gonna
Time,
process it anyway. They have to.
Mr. Chairman, can I
Sure, Dave,
make
go
a
ahead.
suggestion?
Go ahead.
Hello?
Go ahead.
I think we've got pros and cons on both sides. As a suggestion, why don't we do this? Before we vote on this tonight, why don't we ask for an opinion from the Finance Advisory Group? Because that's what they're there for. They're there to advise advise the Board of Selectmen. Let's let them weigh in on this. This is right up their alley. I was on that board for 2.5 years. Let's get their opinion before we vote on anything.
Right, and I think, there's other parts here too, that if we think this is the right process, we should formalize it.
Absolutely.
Because my whole point is, what you're doing doesn't count on the
I understand.
legal perspective of, we can pay a bill without your oversight. Then there's understanding the actual value that your oversight provides.
Of the process.
So we gotta marry the two somewhere here, that there's value and therefore it's required, or there's value in a hybrid format and we require it in that, so right now we have a process being followed that doesn't exist. And so we need to remedy that one way or the other, I think, for clarity for everybody, as to how the process works.
I agree, and Gary brought up an excellent point at the last meeting for the CPC. He said, you might need to clarify this with a warrant article. And that's probably the best way to do it, is to make a little change to the to the local community preservation committee bylaw, the 44. And we're gonna probably wanna do that anyway because of the law change, and, like McEnany, Tom McCaney, Tuck McCaney pointed out that the law had changed in that preamble. That preamble really should be changed because that was copied over anyway.
So the situation we have now is, let's go, I always go, it's 20 years from now, so everybody involved is on the beach, enjoying themselves. Is if your board decided you didn't want to approve it anymore, you could just stop doing it. And if a person who received the grant decided they didn't want to go to you, they could just go straight to town hall. That is the current piece, and that is
There's
the
no formal structure.
That's the resolution we have to resolve, and it shouldn't be arbitrary or left up to whoever's on the committee at that time or whoever receives the grant. We should decide, and I think we have to take the streamlining part into account, and the correct use of CPC funds, and the fact that the town juggles, I'm sure, lots of accounts right now, and you know, keeps it all straight. So I think that's and I don't think it's a resolve tonight type of thing. I think that's the issue, though, is right now we have no process officially. So we should
But
understand what's the right process.
Excuse me, you really do. It's just that you're right. It's not formalized, but it's there, it works, and it's an oversight of all of these projects out there that don't
But if
have.
the highway department decides, no, I'm just gonna send it to the town,
So right now,
then they've broken
You
the
have no
process and you have
recourse.
no recourse. That's my point.
Well, I don't know how much money
No, but said department
There's
can
no teeth
just
into what your process is.
That's my point.
completely
But
bypass you
it's all-
guys.
Some
and there's
things
no
are,
recourse.
once they've been in place a long time, people respect them even
Right.
if they're not formalized.
Right.
And that's what we have right here. And this is true in other towns too. It's not just in
But that's
Georgia.
poor governance, so we just.
Right.
That's true. I wouldn't
I'm
argue
saying
that.
because we want to clean it up
We're-
one
we're
way or
working
the
trying
other.
to clean all that
Yeah.
stuff up because.
There should be a warrant
It
article.
can't be
We should
personality
modify
specific.
the bylaw.
Personally,
Modify the bylaw.
So all
Mr.
I
Chair,
know
I
is
I like an
advisory
extra set of
committee.
eyes.
All I
If
know
we
is-
like what you're doing, I mean, I like what you're doing, looking at it. If it's delaying getting bills paid, that's a problem.
So all I know, I have to write an invoice for 700,000, give it to Mary, and if she signs it, I'm off and running.
You're up and running. That's technically
That's
how
why
it
we
can roll.
entrust you with your volunteer position.
It's technically how it can
A
roll.
lot of people will be chasing you.
Yeah.
But you really have to worry about a tracking numbers, you know,
Right. Well, I said,
numbers, and routing numbers,
Look,
when
we-
you're about to move like 150,000 to a bank.
You know,
We
All
went
you
through
have
this
is a
process,
routing number.
we went through this process with the personnel board.
Yeah.
You know, we're looking at everything that's out there right now, what's in place, why is it there? Has something changed to make it different? I mean, a lot of these things were done before, like Microsoft Word was out and Windows was out there, you know? So understanding, has computers changed it? Has changes in government structure changed things? And so we need, and we should be efficient. You know, that's the one knock on government is it's inefficient. We should take steps to be efficient and accurate. So,
Well, just something you don't know, but we do keep track of all the records by paying the bills. What we do is we maintain our own spreadsheet, and the town accountant maintains their spreadsheets. And they are spreadsheets because they're not in the Munis system. The Munis system can't accept them. It's just not set up for it. Very, very frequently.
But it could be through the
Okay,
procurement
we need to
system.
table this, because it's
Yeah.
10:30 and I can't
Very
even think
frequently, we
anymore.
bounce off one another and catch each other's mistakes, is
So-
all
Gary,
we're
to
saying.
that point,
Yep.
that still can be, those spreadsheets can still be done. It's just a matter of the approval, you know, delaying of the approval. So the spreadsheets and the oversight, the way you have it, all those records can still be generated. It's just, you know, holding up the ability to pay.
Well, I'd have to disagree, Dave. If you're not approving them, you don't see them, you get them after the fact. And then you're not maintaining a spreadsheet, you're copying someone else's.
but still tracking.
All right, guys, we gotta move on.
We'll follow up
But
with
we'll-
this.
We'll talk
We
through
appreciate
this.
you guys.
Remember,
First of
this
all-
is a recommendation from the finance, the Department of Revenue, not from
Absolutely,
us.
it's not a legal opinion, I get it.
Yeah.
It's not a legal opinion or anything.
So-
Thank you for your
Thank you
time and
very
your
much for
service
staying
and
late,
what
too.
you guys are doing.
Wrap up your business, guys, get to bed. You know, come on.
Did we miss any ball
Chairman,
games
Are we gonna
tonight?
ask the Finance and Advisory Board for an opinion on this?
I don't think it's a
Sure.
bad
I think-
idea.
I think that's a good action to take. I think there's gonna be multiple steps here to understand the process, and, so we're gonna have to follow up. So honestly, I'm a little fried right now, so I don't have a specific action in my head other than that, but I do think we wanna, just like the others, the other, pieces of change we're potentially looking at, we wanna follow up diligently. Again, I'll repeat, my goal is to resolve all these matters for the spring vote as a target, so that in the spring, whether it's the other group, or them, this group, we decide our process. All right. Warrant to be signed, everybody, if you haven't done it. Let's do a quick minutes, assuming it's okay. If it's not okay, it won't be quick, but. Did I get motion
Mr. Chair, I
on
move to accept the minutes from 10/7/13 as presented.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Approved.
On the executive minutes, number 4, they're incorrect on the roll call vote on the front page.
Very good.
Okay,
We had Trapani, Eggenberg, and Fowler. Smith was not present, and Surface came in after the fact, and we have it correct on the back. So, do we want to just make this change?
Do I hear a motion to amend the record to reflect that Smith was not there for the vote and Fowler voted?
So moved.
Yes.
Yes.
Wait a second.
You got a
Any
second, yeah.
discussion? Gary, do you have any
That,
other-
that was to approve the minutes with those changes, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that was just to amend the minutes.
No, that was to approve the
There was
minutes.
approve the minutes with those
With those
changes.
With those
You made the
changes.
motion,
All right,
basically.
so
Yes.
yeah, what I said.
So moved, seconded.
Motion and second. All those in favor?
Yeah, aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
David?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. Winter meeting dates, January 6th, January 27th, February 10th, February 24th, March 10th, March 24th, April 7th, April 28th, May 5th, ATM. Yeah, May 5th, annual town meeting, and then the 19th. Okay, so I know it's late, but I would like to get through these appointments where they involve people's livelihood, and I don't want to leave it to the last minute. So, can I have a speed reader?
Yeah. Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the all alcohol club license for VFW as presented.
These all expired December 31st, December 31st, 2014.
14, right?
Okay.
Second.
Second, motion second, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye. These are all January,
December 31st.
December 31st, 14. I'm losing it.
right
31, 14. I move to approve all alcohol restaurant license for Ribo's Bistro 2 Inc. Coach's Locker Room, or what's that supposed to be?
Just a typo.
Okay. Okay, and Coach's Locker Room LLC with a term to expire 12/31/14.
Is there a second?
Wait a second. Ribo's Bistro 2 is the Keon's.
Yeah,
Coach's
and
Locker Room
Coach's
is
LLC.
Will be par 97.
Will be par 97.
Par 97.
Renewing the license so that.
So these are
it
two
can be
separate
transferred.
ones, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's do
But
them
we,
separately.
do you want to
just-
do them separate?
Yeah, let's,
All right,
for the
so-
record, yeah. Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the all-alcohol restaurant for Ribo's Bistro 2, Inc.,
Second.
expired December 31st, 2000.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Chair, I move that we approve the all-alcohol restaurant license for renewal to Coach's Locker Room LLC to expire December 31st, 2014.
Second.
Motion and a second.
Discussion.
Discussion.
Yes, discussion on this, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, discuss.
Does it have to stay in Coach's Locker Room name until hands change to Par 97?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, because it hasn't been approved to be transferred, so to keep they have to have a license to transfer, so we have to approve the current license that is there now, so that it can be transferred to
Par 97.
Par 97.
And this is in case the
Alright,
transaction
thank you.
doesn't occur this year, right? Because if they did it this year, this is for next year.
This is this is approving the license for next year.
Right, right.
But they need a license to transfer, because
Right,
they
right.
didn't go in for a new license, they went in for a transfer.
Gotcha.
And the previous owner or manager did sign the license.
Okay. Gary, do you have another point of discussion on that, or is that the
No,
same
that's
question?
about clears that up. I still don't know how to vote, but okay.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Good, Stu.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the all alcohol package store license for Georgetown Liquors, Inc. To expire 12/31/14.
Georgetown Liquors, Inc.
Motion and second. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Just to clarify that Georgetown
one
Liquors
goes
Inc., CJ Liquors Inc. is the same?
No, those two
That's different.
Okay, so that's different, all right.
Mr. Chair, I move
You
to,
forgot the pizza factory.
Yeah,
I know,
we
I know.
got you, Dave.
I'm blurry-eyed. Mr. Chair, I move to, that we approve all alcohol package store for CJ Liquors Inc. to expire 12/31/14.
Motion is second. Discussion.
Did, that one's
That's-
gone through?
Yeah, that's Johnny's place. That's,
Oh, okay.
that's the official name. Is, CJ Liquors.
You good, Gary? Good question.
One's Georgetown Liquors and one's,
I
Johnny's
thought
place.
Liquor
Let's see.
Barn was
Liquor
Johnny's
Barn.
place.
It has
It's
to be named,
DBA.
it's CJ Liquors
Is the formal name of the business.
Legal entity
Oh,
name.
Doing
okay, but we're
business
doing,
as-
so you're doing two of them.
One's a
Yeah,
victular
one's
license.
Georgetown Liquors.
We did Georgetown already,
over
and
by
now
the
we're doing
building
CJ.
supply.
We just did Georgetown.
We have
Yeah,
two
okay, that
package
was the one I
stores.
guess I had the question on. I don't think I voted on it actually, but okay, go ahead. Okay. Conversation over.
I think you said yes, but I wouldn't swear to it in a court of law. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Mr.
Okay.
Chair, I move that we approve malt and restaurant license for Pizza Factory to expire 12/31/14.
Just acquired wine and malt restaurant.
Wine and malt restaurant, is that what I
Oh,
said?
malt and restaurant
Oh,
license.
sorry.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion?
It's getting punchy time.
All those in
All right,
favor?
I'm moving now.
Aye.
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 I move that we approve the wine and malt package store, Crosby's Market, Inc.
Second.
December 31st, 2014 expiration.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the common victual license for the VFW. Does anyone have any issues if I go across the board?
Nope.
Crosby's Markets, Inc., Liquor Barn, Ribo's Bistro 2, Inc., Pizza Factory, Maestra LLC, which is Dunkin' Donuts, and Theo's.
With a day two.
They're expiring all on December 31st, 2014.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I move that we approve
I'm sorry, Gary,
the,
did you vote on that one or no?
Aye.
Okay.
sorry. I move that we approve the renewal automatic amusement license for the VFW.
Second.
Expired December 31st, 2014.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move that we.
Hold on.
Aye.
Sorry, I'm moving fast here. I move that we renew the license for Sunday Live Entertainment at the VFW Ribo's Bistro 2, Inc.
Second.
To expire.
Expire on December 31st, 2014.
Second, sorry.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 I move that we renew the weekly live entertainment license for the VFW Ribo's Bistro 2, Inc., expiring on December 31st, 2014.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, I move that we renew the secondhand shop licenses for Settlers Antiques, Instant
That's the one we got.
Replays.
Skip. We're just gonna do instant replays in Pratt Hobby Shop right now.
Mr. Chair, I move that we renew the secondhand shop license for Instant Replays in Pratt Hobby Shop,
Second.
To expire.
expiring on December 31st, 2014.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Got everything else going for me.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I move that we renew the trap shooting license for Georgetown Fishing Game, expiring December 31st, 2014.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
I move that we renew the Class 2 used car license for B&B Auto Clinic, Inc., expiring December 31st, 2014.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Gary?
That was an aye.
Okay, it's okay.
Okay.
All right, we have a request from the Affordable Housing Task Force. I don't know if we want to hold on this to meet with him.
Does anyone want to meet with Matthew Martin prior to making a vote for the Affordable Housing Task Force?
Have you guys put him forward? Does this group come as a subgroup of the?
That's the task force, not the trust, so it's a different group than the trust. But I got a letter here from the Chairman, Sean McGee, the chairman of the Georgetown Affordable Housing task force with his support to appoint him. So the chair of that Affordable Housing Task Force made a recommendation.
If I may, we've not had a lot of people knocking on the door to fill that vacancy.
Let's open the door then.
I move that we appoint Matthew Martin to the Affordable Housing Task Force, expiring his term on June 30th, 2016.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on this?
Thank you.
Thank you for
Matthew.
coming forward.
Thank you. We really appreciate it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. All right. Well, first of all, thank you to the, hold on.
Last one. I went to parking.
Oh, thank you. Sidekick, Phil.
Sure.
Just a reminder from Peter Durkee, our highway supervisor, that December 1st, the town's winter parking ban will take effect. It'll be in effect till April 1st, 2014. No parking on any street is allowed between the hours of 1 a.m. and 6 a.m. No parking is allowed on any street during a declared snow emergency. This is always done when any impending storm is forecast to be 6 inches or more in depth. The Boston radio stations are notified. Any vehicles impending or impeding or blocking snow and ice control will be towed at the owner's expense. If you're parking overnight at the park and ride lot, please park all cars on the right side when entering from East Main Street during snowstorms. This will allow the plows to clean the other side. Okay, that's the announcement. Thank you, Peter, as always, for keeping the roads clear with your team. Next meeting, December 16th, 2013, 7 p.m., same place.
Same bat channel.
Same bat channel.
Move to
Thanks.
adjourn?
Thank you to the board. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you,
and
everybody.
tired.
Okay,